all are having entirely too much fun down there.
This next day is long. Yeah. They're working. That's good.
It's nice to be able to move this.
I'd like to call to order the Bedford County School Board meeting scheduled for tonight, November 9th, 2023. Ms. Kirby has notified me that she will not be present tonight due to her not feeling well. Ms. Johnson, if you will do the roll call.
Mr. Hill,
Here.
Mr. Daniels,
Here.
Mrs. Hairston,
Here.
Mr. Holbrook,
Here.
Mr. Nelms,
Here.
Dr. Mealy.
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Hill, with your permission, we would like to reorder 201 and 202. One of the presenters on 201 is delayed and will be here by the time we finish with 202. Just invert the order, if that's agreeable to the board.
Dr. Mealy, would you like to rescind
Restate it.
your motion and then do another motion?
Okay, so I will rescind the motion I just made and make a new motion that we accept the agenda with the change of 2.02 taking the place of 2.01 and vice versa.
All right, so I have a motion to change the staff reports in the order of 2.01 and 2.02, reversing those. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any other discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Agenda is approved. All right. If you will, please stand with me for the presentation of colors.
Order. Arms. Left. Face. Present. Arms.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Order. Arms. Right. Face. Right shoulder. Arms. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Right.
Staff reports, 2.01, quarter one benchmark results. Dr. Trosper?
If your permission, Mr. Hill, I'd like to introduce Dr. Trosper.
Okay.
Tonight, we're going to be sharing the results of our first quarter benchmark assessments. And by way of reminder, board members, you received these results via Wednesday memo 2 weeks ago on the 25th of October. You might recall from previous discussions that these assessments themselves are new this year, new to our students and our teachers, through our membership with the Comprehensive Instructional Program, which is also known as CIP Education, a consortium of various school divisions in Virginia, mostly located west of Richmond. We are working collaboratively with these other school divisions to improve our student achievement as measured by the SOLs. The CIP assessments, which our students completed in this first quarter, are considerably more rigorous than quarterly assessments that we have used in the past. A key advantage of these assessments is their strong and proven correlation with SOL assessments. So in tonight's presentation, Dr. Trosper is going to be making some comparisons with our division SOL results from last year to these first quarter benchmark results. And of course, our teachers have had these results for several weeks now to reflect on the progress of their individual students and to share that information with their students' parents during the parent-teacher conferences, which were held earlier this week. And our principals have also been reviewing the results for their school to determine areas of strength and concerns with regards to their own teachers and grade levels and content areas. During the presentation tonight, Dr. Trosper will be sharing how our central instructional support team has been analyzing these results in order to better support our principals and our teachers with any needed adjustments and any needed additional professional development. Dr. Trosper.
Good evening. Each quarter, schools participate in benchmark testing as part of the assessments used to monitor student performance. The benchmarks are given throughout a provided range of dates on the division assessment calendar. Once the assessments are done, division and school administrators, teachers, and other school staff look at the data after the window closes. The division has provided pacing guides for each subject for teachers to follow. This provides a roadmap of expectations and continuity of content acquisition throughout the division and aligns to the benchmark assessments given each quarter. As part of teacher evaluations, principals check to make sure that the content and objectives of the lesson match the current pacing guides. The content taught during the quarter, as outlined in the pacing guides, aligns with the content assessed on the benchmark. Dr. Woodford already shared first quarter benchmark results with the board in a Wednesday memo. This evening, I will provide an analysis of the data, show what data our schools are looking at, how they are using the data to inform instruction, and how special education and instruction are partnering to respond to the data as we support schools this year. Since students with disabilities is the subgroup that is of consistent concern in our division and across the state. The chart on the screen is taken directly from Dr. Woodford's Wednesday memo and shows pass rates for quarter one benchmarks. As a general rule, we expect pass rates to be a bit lower than SOL scores on benchmarks, especially early in the year. However, pass rates are just one data point available to us, so in the following slides, I will explain other data sources that are available to Bedford County staff. To gain some context, we compared quarter one benchmark scores to the spring 2023 SOL pass rates. The benchmarks given this year were given for the first time to students in Bedford County. While I would like to present data that compares benchmark scores from this year to previous years, they are so different this year that drawing comparisons would not be helpful. Since benchmarks given this year were developed through a rigorous process, allow staff access to high-quality detailed data reports and predictive tools, all of which were previously unavailable to us, the central support team strongly believes that these benchmarks will benefit students this year and in future school years. As you know, and as Dr. Bergen said, Bedford County joined a consortium called the Comprehensive Instructional Planning midway through last school year. Each year, curriculum teams consisting of teachers from all divisions in the consortium meet to write benchmarks, draft pacing guides, and create resources for instruction. After writing benchmarks, they are sent to school divisions for input. CIP curriculum teams meet again to discuss feedback and create final benchmark exams that all schools in the CIP consortium take. The process is focused on alignment of content with the taught standards and produces reliable and predictable data. After analyzing the data from quarter one benchmarks, the team noted the following strengths and weaknesses for core subject areas. First of all, in English for grades 3 through 11, also known as ELA. As you know, we are in the process of implementing the new elementary reading curriculum, Benchmark Advance. The curriculum is much more rigorous than what most of our teachers and students are used to. However, this curriculum is aligned to the science of reading and meets the criteria outlined by the Virginia Literacy Act. While there have been changes, we are proud of our elementary schools for their commitment to implementing the curriculum effectively and with fidelity. So the overall pass rates for ELA, as indicated on the slide, are 68% for elementary, 66% for middle school, and 62% for high school. And please note that in grades 9 through 11, the benchmarks are cumulative, meaning they cover content for the whole year. It's just for those grades, though. For math, in grades 3 all the way up to geometry, as part of the CIP pacing guides, the math teachers agreed to front-load the hardest math material in the first 9 weeks to provide additional practice. So the overall pass rates for math, as indicated on this slide, are 76% for elementary, 62% for middle school, and 67% for high school. 4th and 8th grade made significant improvements from mid-year data in 2022, and 6th and 7th grade are the math scores that continue to be an area of concern. But keep in mind that all of our students in Advanced Math 7 actually take the Math 8 benchmark and the SOL test, which pulls a large number of our higher performing students out of the 7th grade benchmark results. In science, only grades 4 and 5 were assessed, so overall division pass rate was 79%, but 5th grade actually had a pass rate of 85, which is the grade where students are tested. In social studies, overall, Virginia study scores were strong with a 76% pass rate, except for the performance of our students with disabilities, which we are continuing to work on improving. When looking at CIP quarterly benchmark data, there are a variety of data points other than pass rates that are available to get a complete picture of student performances. This provides points of comparison previously unavailable to administrators. The CIP reports provide information to help administrators determine if the school will likely have higher SOL pass rates this year than last year or not. Schools see pass rates, the number of students taking the test, and percentage rankings for all students, students with disabilities, disadvantaged students, English language learners, and other subgroups monitored on school quality profiles. So in the following slides, I will show you what data report schools are currently looking at based on first quarter benchmark results. There's too much information to review in depth, but the school administration team wants the board to be aware of what data is available to our schools and understand that this data is customized to each school. So first, there's an analysis of scores by core subject broken down by school and for the division. Schools, of course, want to improve their pass rates, and they want to improve how they're performing in comparison to other schools. The percentile rank, or PR report, is the most important statistic we use when we are analyzing benchmarks. CIP member divisions have found that analyzing relative data is more important than analyzing proficiency rates in isolation. Schools have the ability to see percentage rates that compare benchmark performance with other schools, and the percentile rank statistic is useful as this demonstrates how our students perform relative to everyone else's scores. On the screen is an analysis of scores report for math. I've covered the school name for this example, but the left column shows pass rates. The far right column shows the percentile rankings of the school in comparison to CIP member divisions. Green represents the schools falling in the top third of CIP schools, yellow in the second third, and red the bottom third. As an example, how our schools might be using this data, at a recent leadership team meeting I attended, the school improvement plan indicated that scores for students with disabilities were an area of concern. In isolation, the benchmark scores appeared low. However, the school looked closer and they celebrated that the percentile rankings for students with disabilities had actually improved from spring SOLs, which indicated a positive trend. The next data point that our schools use comes from Mastery Connect, which is the division assessment platform. While CIP provides the questions, pacing guides, teacher collaboration, and in-depth comparisons between member school divisions, Mastery Connect is the assessment platform that allows us to give the benchmark assessment. In addition, there are thousands of additional test items that teachers can use to create formative and summative assessments to use at any time. Teachers get detailed reports about student performance on each test given, including benchmarks for the first quarter. While useful to division personnel to determine overall pass rates, Mastery Connect is primarily used at the school level by teachers, instruction coaches, and administrators. The first report is an item analysis report. This measures class mastery by question. So first and foremost, and most critical when analyzing student learning data, is that teachers are using this item analysis tool to determine which at-risk students need additional supports, with which skills, and then provide that support through reteaching or remediation of a whole class, a small group, or individual students, depending on the data. The report on the screen is a school-level report from the first quarter benchmark given to students in Science 5. If you look at the report, it clearly identifies that SOL 4.2, Bullet A, is a standard that most of the students missed in this class-level science benchmark. This means the teacher should examine this question more closely to determine if remediation or reteaching is needed and which students should receive this intervention. When teachers conduct analysis of test items effectively, students score significantly higher on their SOL tests at the end of the year. The instruction and special education teams are focused on coaching and supporting teachers as they analyze these reports. The next report teachers have been trained to use is the Mastery by Standard report, which indicates how students overall performed on each standard. The green, yellow, and red colors indicate the percentage of students who either meet or exceeds the expectation for performance on the standard, are developing in their skills for this standard, or those that are emerging. Each benchmark gives multiple questions for each standard, and the Mastery by Standard report tells teachers what skill or content needs reteaching. Another benefit of the report is that it can be filtered by subgroup. So on the screen, there are two reports for the same benchmark shown in the previous slide. The top chart is performance of students with disabilities on the standard, and the bottom chart shows all student performance. A teacher can use these charts to compare performance of a specific subgroup with all students. So for example, in this report, it is noteworthy that all students with disabilities are in the red in 5.3b, while all students overall demonstrated some success. The teacher would use this information to talk to a co-teacher about remediating these specific students, or give to a resource teacher to remediate while that student is receiving IEP services. The benefit of a Mastery by Standard report is that teachers are able to reflect on what scaffolds are needed to help students learn the standard. The final report is another variation of the Mastery by Standard report. In this report, student performance is broken down by standard so the teacher can see the number of questions about the standard on that test and the number answered correctly or incorrectly. Using this report, a teacher can look at class trends per standard by looking down single columns and student trends by looking across the rows. Another report available to us is called the Benchmark SOL Distribution Report, and this is provided by CIP. Data reports provide prediction tables like the one on the screen for each quarterly benchmark each year for the last 5 years. This is a tremendous benefit of using these benchmarks, is that they are highly predictive of eventual SOL success. So a teacher could look at this chart and they could determine the percentage possibility the student is likely to pass based on their performance on the benchmarks. Administrators can look at these tables with teachers and discuss how student scores are distributed and determine who needs remediation. So the chart on this screen is one of those benchmark distribution charts. This is for English grade level 3. But there are charts like this for every tested subject. This chart shows student performance from fall of 2022 benchmarks compared to performance on the spring of the 2023 SOL exams. For this subject, a teacher knows that if they can get students to get a score between 61 and 70, then 80% of students who fall in that range have historically passed the SOL test. As you can see, the higher students score on benchmarks, the greater chance they have to pass the SOL. Administrators and teachers can see these tables and begin to make predictions about spring testing. This allows them to make adjustments to school plans if a subject, department, or grade level begins to show signs of needing additional supports or resources. Administrators and teachers can also work with students to set goals for how they will perform on benchmarks so they can feel confident about how they will ultimately perform on SOL tests. At the division level, instruction and special education teams are using division data from CIP reports to tier supports for specific subjects, schools, or teachers that need additional support. Supervisors visit schools and meet with departments, grade levels, or teachers to analyze the reports I just showed you. Then they determine what supports are needed to help the teacher be successful. The instruction team regularly reflects on where we are spending our time so we can maximize our efficiency. This year, we are especially focused on visibility and feedback to improve the quality of instruction in our classrooms. In ELA, they are providing continued walkthroughs and coaching to elementary schools as we implement the new reading curriculum, Benchmark Advance. The supervisor of elementary reading is working with 3rd through 5th grade elementary principals and teachers to analyze benchmark data and make plans for remediation of skills most missed in the Quarter 1 benchmark. The supervisor of secondary reading is doing the same for our middle and high schools. Both supervisors are also attending common planning and department meetings regularly. In math, the supervisor of math is meeting and working with middle school teachers, primarily 6th and 7th grade, to disaggregate data and make plans on remediating the most missed topics or skills during the second 9 weeks. Walk-through observations and feedback in all K-12 math classrooms will continue during the second 9 weeks. Attendance and guidance at department meetings and common plannings will continue to be a focus for our middle schools, and she will also continue individual teacher meetings to focus on data analysis, feedback, and alignment of instruction. In science, the supervisor of science is conducting monthly walkthroughs at focus schools with low science SOL performance in the spring. After these walkthroughs, the documented feedback is provided to the teacher and the administrator. At a recent division professional development, the science supervisor shared best practices for science instruction, focused on scientific and engineering practices, and time was provided for teachers to work collaboratively with others from their zone and plan and share resources. In social studies, our new supervisor of humanities began on November the 1st. He has already disaggregated the data and determined Virginia Studies standards where students are struggling the most. He will be working with teachers to identify resources that help build student skills in geography and critical thinking, and also to teach test-taking skills and help teachers differentiate lessons that help our special education population improve. In all core subject areas, supervisors are conducting co-teaching walkthroughs and giving feedback and support to classrooms for students with disabilities. And finally, the instruction and special education teams have collaborated to create monthly training opportunities for principals. This year, a major focus is on high-leverage practices. High-leverage practices are frequently occurring educational practices that all K-12 special educators should know how to do. These practices are evidence-based, meaning that they reflect effective methods, and when they are successfully implemented, they can improve results for struggling learners. There are 22 practices, and they represent the most important practices that educators should learn to use in their educational settings. While they especially benefit students with disabilities, they are practices that will help all students be successful. Keep in mind that students with disabilities qualify for special education due to the presence of a disability, how it impacts them educationally, and the need for specially designed instruction. In order to progress in the general curriculum and improve student outcomes, additional training has been provided for all special education teachers on specially designed instruction in order to support our students with disabilities. One of the high leverage practices that we're looking at is analyzing student learning data. In other words, effective teachers retain, reuse, and extend practices that improve student learning, and they adjust or they discard those practices that do not. So in a recent training led by instruction and special education teams, in a training that will take place next week, the principal will reflect on first quarter data, and they will receive additional training on how to work with teachers on using the data to improve instruction. Principals will also look at school level data, comparing grades to results on end of year assessments, and the goal will be to create awareness of the importance of high expectations for all students. Now that first quarter benchmarks have been given, division and school staff are focused on responding to what the data tells us. Again, I'd like to emphasize that what we do with the data available is what makes our benchmarks useful. Pass rates are just one piece of the puzzle. We expect our staff to conduct in-depth item analysis using the reports I just described to plan and make adjustments as the data tells them they need to, with supports from our division leaders. I'll be happy to take questions at this time.
Questions for Dr. Trosper? Dr. Mealy?
Thank you so much for that report, Dr. Trosper. It was very informative, and I'm very glad to hear that we are at least seeing positive trends with our students for disabilities. Your item analysis tool and your mastery by standards, those are all just such great tools, especially to determine whether students are meeting, developing, or have emerging skills. My question is this: how is this being monitored to know that our principals are in fact doing this, or our teachers are doing this? Not that this is just available, but they are actually, several times you use the word the expectation is. So how are we sure that this is being monitored and they are looking at it in the way that you have shared with us, which I think is fabulous.
Sure.
I just want some assurances that in fact everyone knows how to do this and is in fact doing it.
Well, as I said, we're really focusing on our training with our principals, and this is the first time we've met since benchmarks have been completed. So we're going to take a look at it even closer with our principals this coming Tuesday when we meet, and we're going to break down the data. We're going to let them collaborate and talk about how they're using the data. One way that we're monitoring is we have a division support person assigned to each school, and what we've done is we've tried to assign directors, Dr. Woodford, Dr. Calvert, to some of our schools that are especially showed concerns. And so as we go to leadership meetings, we talk to principals, and we make sure they're using this data. We report back to each other when we meet weekly just to talk about how those conversations are going. One example, I was at a recent leadership meeting, and they took the prediction tables and they applied them just to their school, and they were able to make predictions for what their SOL pass rates would be. The other thing that we've done is in some of our higher needs schools where the students are not performing where we want, the supervisors for special ed and instruction are going to either grade level or department meetings. And the directive that I've given them is to make sure conversations are focused on data. And I will say I'm proud of our principals because a lot of the ones in these schools that just know they need to progress, they are at those meetings. And they're guiding the discussions. They're setting expectations. There's forms that they have to complete to show they're talking about it. So we've got visibility at department meetings, leadership meetings, and so on. And then another way that we're doing this is we're actually asking principals for schools that are in improvement or in warning to come talk to us at the division level. Once they get through the first quarter benchmarks, and then they look at their data, and we're going to talk to them and ask pointed questions like, what changes have you made? What is the data telling you? How are students progressing that previously have failed to meet expectations? And really try to challenge and get answers on what they're doing to improve scores, and with the message being, if it's not changing, then what are we doing different? So again, this year, and I can only speak for my instruction supervisors, we've been as visible as we've been since I've been in this position. We've really put a priority on that. I've heard that feedback from principals, and we're trying to give that individualized feedback just to grow teachers and get them where they want them to go.
Great, thank you so much. Also, you used the word opportunity several times when you're talking about PD, that principals would have the opportunity to attend some of these sessions that are talking about how to do and what you're saying and interpret data points. So is that an opportunity or is it a requirement for them to attend?
It's a required principals meeting. And I'm assuming that they've looked at it already, but that's the purpose for having it, is to make sure that we've looked at it. So I've asked them to bring their data to look at it prior to the meeting, and then we're going to actually get in there and do some activities, some reflection and collaboration. So yes, those are required principal meetings monthly.
Okay, I have one more question. I love the fact that this gives us such detailed information, and again, that we're seeing some positive trends, especially with subgroups that we know are struggling. But I also think it's important to look at the other end of the scale as well. So is there anything going on with our children who are either gifted students or students who are just academically talented, to ensure that they are progressing as well, so that if they score a 500 one year, that a 505 isn't okay the next year, or a little bit of growth isn't okay, that we're really challenging them and trying to get their scores up as high as they're able to based on their abilities.
Sure. One of the changes Ms. Bowyer made, she's the supervisor over gifted in the last few years, is she has arranged collaborative time with our gifted teachers across the division. And so they meet weekly, and they discuss common strategies and ways they're working with kids in our schools. One of the positive changes that we're seeing is they're treating classes with gifted students almost like you would a co-taught class for students with disabilities, in that the gifted teacher is pushing into that class and providing that support. That has been really helpful because that tends to raise the bar for all kids. And what we really emphasize is, of course, there's more face-to-face time with that teacher in elementary, but as they get into middle school, we really look at the differentiation piece. Any kind of feedback, we've encouraged our principals to talk to teachers about what's the difference between your advanced and general education class. Oftentimes, unfortunately, you'll go into an advanced class and you'll kind of look the same as a general class. And so that's a point that we try to challenge our teachers on, is to make sure that you make it more rigorous, more critical thinking and analysis. So she's done a wonderful job collaborating. Actually, just recently, our gifted teachers met with with Governor School's teacher with the CVGS just to talk about gifted practices. And one of the things that their principal has asked those teachers to do is to get gifted certified. And so we're able to collaborate, really looking down the road at where our gifted students will, a lot of them will ultimately end up, to find out what they're doing so we can work together to improve.
Okay, so am I understanding you to say that there is the expectation that we are looking to improve the scores of those children as much as the children who are struggling?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much, I appreciate it, and thank you again for your report.
Other questions?
I do have
Ms.
one.
Harrison?
Yeah. Dr. Trosper, thank you for such an excellent report. I just have one question, just for clarity and understanding on my part. On one of your slides here, I think it was the division support slide, the high leverage practice. Can you elaborate on that for me? Is that something that these practices, are they coming from our State Department with various types of practices and things that can be used, or just elaborate and help me
These
better understand
practices are
that.
similar to what, if you've done any kind of research, Marzano, where they do kind of a meta-analysis of lots of studies, and then they compile the most effective practices. So that's what high leverages are. As you read through them, they're nothing new. They are what I would call just good old-fashioned teaching, things that have worked previously. And it's kind of a part of a back to the basics approach. I'll give you some examples. They're broken down into 4 categories of collaboration, assessment, socio-emotional behavior, and then instruction. And so for instruction, a high leverage practice, again, I'll just read a few, there's 22. Identify and prioritize long and short-term learning goals. That's nothing, as I said, it's nothing new, but that's obviously goal setting with students is really meaningful. Systematically designing instruction towards learning goals. Adapting curriculum materials and tasks to specialized instruction for those with disabilities. Providing scaffolding supports, using explicit instruction. And so, and there's all kinds of them, and it's pretty easy to find, but again, the evidence based on research over time is brought together, and they've compiled these, and so what we've done is we're systematically teaching 2 to 3 to our principals, asking them to think about what works for their school and then take them back to their school. And we've tried to make professional development just ready-made so they can take it right to a staff meeting, department meeting, and talk to their teachers. And so some principals are taking it as is, some are spreading it out over a couple of years, and some are just looking at their school and thinking, well, here's what I know they need to work on. So, yeah, but again, kind of a back to the basics.
Good. It's good. It's always good to go back to those
Yes.
basics. Thank you, Dr. Trosper.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a couple. Dr. Trosper, these benchmarks, they were taken one time, right? Either
Yes.
pass or, okay. And we all see the pass rates, but what are, like, how's the grading, like, go on that? Is it out of 100 questions, or, like, is it like an SAT? What's the ranges there?
Everyone's a little different.
Okay.
And there's a whole chart that our teachers have access to. I've seen anywhere from 20 to 40 questions.
Okay.
It really depends on the subject, and the value of that is that the decision was made by teachers in multiple school divisions who have looked at this repeatedly over the years, then gotten feedback from all teachers in each of the divisions. So it's, you know, like I said, between 20, 40.
Okay.
And I'd have to verify that, but that's what it looks like.
Well, the reason why I ask is I'm interested in, like, you know, what it takes to pass. And then, okay, great, we hit that. But then what are we doing? Like, what's the percentage of our students that are achieving, you know, 10, 15, 20% above that? Like, I want to know what is our, like, Excel rate, essentially. So that's something that would be good. And I'm sure we monitor it, but it would be good information for us to know
Okay.
as well. Like, hey, we got a lot of kids passing, but we really should celebrate these. There's a lot of kids that are really doing well. So I think that that's an important thing to look at.
Sure.
So that's all I had.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Trosper. All right, we'll move on to 2.02, school presentations for Boonesboro and Forest Middle School. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, sir. So while Mr. DeMeo comes up and settles himself in, just keeping in the same lane we've been in for the last several board meetings to help you all as board members and our community be aware of the strategic work at the school level. We're having each of our principals present at a school board meeting to talk about their own school's accomplishments and the goals of their own school's continuous improvement plan. And we're very pleased tonight to welcome Mr. John DeMeo, our principal of Boonesboro Elementary School, and he'll then be followed by Dr. Norman, our principal of Forest Middle School. So, John, should I stretch out a little more? Are you good to go, buddy?
I'm set. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Good evening, school board members. My name is John DeMaio, and I am in my third year as principal of Boonesboro Elementary School, which serves approximately 330 students in grades K through 5. Our vision at Boonesboro Elementary School is for all students to reach their full potential, and our mission is to build a strong foundation for further education by providing students with opportunities to develop academically, socially, and emotionally. This evening, I will share information about our continuous school improvement plan, including celebrations, student performance, and academic and climate goals. I would like to start by sharing some celebrations. Boonesboro Elementary is fully accredited, earning a school quality indicator of level 1 for all academic achievement, achievement gaps, and student engagement and outcomes areas. This was only accomplished through the commitment, dedication, and hard work of our entire staff, students, and families. I am proud to share our low chronic absenteeism rate of 5.4%. This rate demonstrates that all of our stakeholders value the importance of school attendance. Through a partnership with a local church, we were able to secure funds to furnish a sensory room to meet the varied stimuli of our students. Multiple students have already utilized this room, positively supporting their school experience. And as part of the VDOE Security Equipment Grant submitted by the division, Boonesboro was awarded funds to add software in our front entryway, enhancing the safety and security of our staff and students. Software included a buzzer system with a built-in camera in the vestibule and A-phones for each office staff, allowing them to see and communicate with visitors before they enter the main office or hallways. Next, I would like to discuss our historical student performance data and continuous school improvement goals for the 2023-2024 school year. Developing these goals was a comprehensive process involving the school's leadership team and other instructional staff. Student performance data over multiple years was analyzed, allowing us to identify trends, strengths, and areas for growth. This process guided us to make informed decisions and create school goals that will advance students academically, behaviorally, and socially. Before sharing our CSIP goals, I will provide historical student performance data on SOL assessments in the PALS screener. This data will also provide context for how we determined our pass rate percentages for this year's goals. For SOL student performance data, you will see two data sets. One is the raw pass rate, the other is the combined pass rate. While raw pass rates do not factor in growth, combined rates do. For several years, the Virginia Department of Education has adopted a growth model that factors into school accreditation. This growth model asks students to move from one range to the next over the course of the school year and demonstrates their academic advancement and growth, which is then factored into school pass rates. Here, you will see SOL reading student performance data for students in grades 3 through 5 over the past 5 years. Raw pass rates remain relatively consistent over the past 5 years, with the exception of the 2017 school year, which yielded a higher pass rate of 88%. Similarly, the combined pass rate percentages have also remained consistent. You will notice an NA for the 2016-2017 school year, and this is due to the state not having in place a growth measure at this time. The next set of data focuses on the pass rates of our students with disabilities. While our raw pass rates for this subgroup have been low over the past 2 school years, I am pleased with the amount of growth these students have demonstrated, which is shown in our combined rate percentages. You will see the TS in some boxes, and this stands for too small, which means we did not have a high enough population of students with disabilities for the state to report results. The last reading data slide shows historical PALS data. On the left, you will see data representing the percentage of students meeting the sum score benchmark, which has remained steady. On the right includes instructional oral reading level performances for the past 2 school years, which again have remained steady but slightly lower than benchmark results. While in years past, we have focused our attention on sum score benchmarks, which measures students' word recognition and spelling, our focus has shifted the past 2 school years to their instructional oral reading level, which assesses students' ability to take meaning from text, which is the ultimate goal for our readers. We also identified a trend in student performance on these 2 measures, with those meeting the instructional oral reading level benchmark yielding lower results than some score pass rates. As such, it was essential to prioritize students' instructional oral reading levels so we can align them with the sum score benchmark results. We have developed 3 reading goals this school year. Our first goal is that this spring will be for 92% of our grade 3 through 5 students to pass or show needed growth to count as a pass on their reading SOL. Second is for 75% of our students with disabilities in grades 3 through 5 to pass or show needed growth to count as a pass on their reading SOL. And third is for 75% of our K through 2 students to meet or exceed the reading instructional level benchmark on the spring PALS screening. To support and achieve our reading goals, teachers are working to implement the Benchmark Advanced Reading Program, Hegarty Phonological and Phonemic Awareness Instruction, and the utilization of the Sonde System reading program for our students with disabilities. Additionally, our Reading Center staff and classroom teachers provide daily targeted small group reading instruction and remediation. Next, moving into math, I first want to provide historical SOL pass rates that help guide us to set appropriate goals. The first data set are SOL pass rates, raw and combined, for all students in grades 3 through 5. These pass rates have remained consistent and strong, with marks in the 80s and 90s for all but 1 year. Next are SOL math results for our students with disabilities. Similar to reading, you will see TS indicating this subgroup was too small to report for the given school year. The 2 previous school years show similar raw pass rates and 2 combined pass rates with differences. I'm pleased to share that we remain at a level 1 for this achievement gap group. We have developed 2 goals for math. Our first goal is this spring will be for 93% of our grade 3 through 5 students to pass or show needed growth to count as a pass on their math SOL. And our second goal is for 75% of our students with disabilities in grades 3 through 5 to pass or show needed growth to count as a pass on their math SOL. To support and achieve these goals, teachers provide daily explicit, systematic, and sequential instruction, emphasizing problem solving, number sense, estimation, and computation. Furthermore, grade level and vertical teams meet routinely to analyze student performance data to guide and inform instruction and to provide targeted remediation. Additionally, our special education teachers are using a research-based program called Moving with Math to provide our students with disabilities supplemental instruction. Our last goal focuses on school climate. Recognizing the importance of culture, climate, and safe schools, we have a goal to decrease undesirable behaviors on campus. Starting this school year, we implemented a set of school-wide expectations that promote strong character and productive citizens. These expectations include being brave, optimistic, organized, motivated, encouraging, and respectful. Our goal focuses on these expectations and for each student to earn at least 1 Eagle ticket per month for demonstrating positive behavior as measured by our school-wide expectations matrix. To support and achieve this goal, our teachers are focusing on responsive classroom practices, such as morning meeting and providing behavior-specific praise throughout the day. Additionally, our school counselor is supporting this goal through classroom lessons, small groups, and one-on-one sessions with students. Further, our school counselor has partnered with outside companies to host assemblies on topics such as anti-bullying. The valuable and integral work of our division intervention design specialists also supports this goal. These specialists have worked with students individually on specific behavioral and social skills, allowing them increased success in the classroom. Lastly, as a school, we have fully implemented our school-wide positive behavioral interventions and supports framework centered around our 6 school-wide expectations, which have yielded positive results thus far. At this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I do have
All right, Mrs. Harris.
Mr. DeMayo, thank you so much for your report, and congratulations to both you and the staff for your fully accreditation. Boonesboro has held such a long history of academic success for students there. And so it's very pleasing to know that that's continuing under your leadership. I'd like to know a little bit more about your sensory room. That intrigues me. So tell me a little bit about what that looks like and which students are using it.
So the student usage is varied and based on needs. It's students with disabilities and students that are non-disabled. And it includes action items such as a trampoline, crash pads to get students with high energy levels, get some of that energy out and fidgeting out. And it also includes different types of fabrics, and bean bags and soft plush toys, and gel floor tiles, to provide kind of a calming area as well. And we've divided, in a sense, the sensory room. It's the size of a normal classroom.
Okay.
And we've divided it to where the high action items are in one area, and then the calming items are kind of in another area away. And adults bring students there as needed to utilize the room. The time can range just based on need and the student's behavior at the time. And it's yielded really positive results thus far for, like I said, our students with disabilities and our non-disabled students as well.
Right, absolutely. And so it's new this year, right?
It is. We worked with a local church.
Okay.
And through their graciousness, they fully funded it.
Wonderful.
And we were able to purchase different items. I worked with my special education staff, my school counselor, the classroom teachers to target high-need items for that room, and that came to our determination on what to purchase for that room.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Questions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. DeMayo, and I also want to offer my congratulations to you and your staff for your accreditation and the hard work you're doing out there, and also to your students, because they work hard too.
Absolutely.
And I also want to congratulate you for the partnership you developed with the church for the sensory room, and also for your security. I know when we work together, nothing trumps security and safety of our students, nothing. So thank you for focusing, having a focus on that. I appreciate your reading and your math goals, but to help me better understand your goal, can you help me understand what the passing rate was for your SPED students in reading and math last year? Like you're saying you want to set 75% of the students to meet or exceed the score of 200 or demonstrate growth on the vertical scale to count as a pass. So how much of an increase is that 75%? And if you don't have that here, that's perfectly okay to say I don't have it here.
Absolutely. I do have that data. So looking at the 22-23 school year, so the most recent SOLs that the students took, students with disabilities took last school year, we had a raw pass rate of 31%. Our combined rate was 69% for reading. So based on the current goals that we have in place, it would be about a 6% increase would be our aim for this school year in reading with that 75% threshold.
Mm-hmm.
And then for math, we had yielded better results than reading for our students with disabilities. So last school year, our raw pass rate for math for students with disabilities was a 54%, and our combined rate was a 71%. So with that 75%, it would be about a 4% increase for math. In both the 75% is the benchmark threshold for level 1 determination through the VDOE, Virginia Department of Education, for English. And then for math, it's slightly lower, 5 percentage points lower to 70%. So our aim is for each of those subjects for students with disabilities to be at a level 1. Like I said, our math, we were fortunate through the hard work of the teachers and students to earn that level 1 for math. And then for reading, we fell slightly to a 69%. So we were a little bit lower than that level 1 indicator for reading.
Okay, thank you. Also, what are you most concerned about right now with your student performance?
Well, certainly our students with disabilities is always a focus in accelerating their learning and getting them, on grade level and advancing, past grade level. I would say our students, some of our students, are presenting some behavioral needs, which of course impacts academics. We need our students regulated and in a positive mindset for any quality learning and teaching to take place. So through the hard work of our counselors, our intervention design specialists, we've had some support there, responsive classroom, really prioritizing our students' behavioral needs and getting them better able to focus in class. So that's probably one of our biggest focuses right now, which will yield positive results in terms of academics.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question. Again, I really appreciate the partnership you've developed with the church that's willing to support such a huge project at your school, so thank you. What church is that?
North Bedford Baptist Church.
Okay, well, thank you to North Bedford Baptist for their generosity. Are you going to also keep specific data with regard to the sensory room to determine how effective it is going to be or was this year when you get to the end of the year?
Yes, we do track who is using it, why they're using it, the frequency in which they're using it, and then ultimately kind of looking at all of that and seeing, is it being productive and is it being used in a positive manner to decrease some undesirable behavior? So absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, congratulations to your staff. Please send them my best.
Will do. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one. Thank you. With that sensory room, I like what you said, you're tracking all that stuff. Are the parents notified when if their kids are using that room?
They are not notified if they're using that room throughout the day. Some of our students with disabilities do have it embedded in their IEP, and even some of our students who are being monitored through our school consultation team as an intervention do have that embedded as just a break, and students with 504 plans. So those parents and caregivers are understanding that is an intervention that is used throughout the day for the students who need that break.
And as a parent of a child with special needs and an IEP, that would be written into the IEP. That would be great. I would love that. However, I would also like to know, as a parent, that they needed to use the room that day. I would like to know that. And if any of my other kids needed to use that room, I would love to know that, because maybe there's something going on that I, as a parent, would need to understand. So that's how we kind of work together with that. So it's just something to think about, but I would like to see that, and I would venture to guess most parents would like to know that as well.
Certainly, and the teachers do on daily basis with some of our unique students. They are in frequent communication,
Okay, yeah.
and provide detailed reports to them on their school happenings.
Good, thank you. Yeah, more communication is always better. That's how we can solve some problems. So thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Hill, given the time, 7 minutes before 6, we could have Dr. Norman get 5 minutes into his presentation before taking a break. I think it would better serve the board if he just started from the beginning after we dealt with our 6 o'clock issues, which are recognition of students and staff and public comment. But I'll defer to you.
Well, at least go ahead and get set up, but are you doing it from there? Or, yeah, I would go ahead and get set up. Let's see here. Is there anything in 7.01, Dr. Bergen, that you think you can apprise us on in 6 minutes?
No, sir, not on 701.
Okay.
We certainly could dispense, if you would like, with 702 and 703. 702 is going to be a 5-minute item.
Okay, let's go for 7.02.
Okay. So 702 is the development of the budget calendar, not to be confused with revisions to the current school year, but next school year, we're going to have a new budget that will develop through the Budget and Finance Committee and with the entire school board. So there is an attachment to this item in board docs for the, when the board would be meeting to look at the budget calendar. And I would be happy to take any questions if there are questions about the proposed dates for the budget calendar in Mr. Hagler's absence tonight.
And this was presented last month, correct? Since we're taking action on it.
Yes, sir, it was presented last month.
Do I have a motion for the budget calendar?
So move.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
If you'd like to continue with 703,
Let's
I know
keep
Mr.
rolling.
Peros is here in the room with us.
Okay.
So I'm really there, you are, Will? Okay, so first of all, as Will makes his way over, congratulations to you on your election as the next treasurer of Bedford County, Will, effective in January. Will is substituting tonight for Mr. Hagler, who is with his family in Florida celebrating his father's 80th birthday. So good to you, Randy, and please turn off the streaming and enjoy your family. Mr. Perro is going to share the results of the recent RFP for bus lease bids. Mr. Perro.
So we put out a bid for the bus leases, as we do every year. Bank of America was the lowest bidder with a rate of 4.3258% and annual payments of $237,022.72, which is about $2,000 over what the budget was originally approved for. Mr. Hagler did run projections on the transportation category, coming in about $32,000 lower than the budget, so that would cover this overage. Staff recommends that the school board award the contract to Bank of America, and I believe all of the results were in your package for all the other banks.
So I know, Mr. Holbrook, you had brought up a question about why are we not purchasing versus financing? Has that answer been given to you?
No, but I was told that it was like 1% interest,
On purchasing? Sorry, on
Yeah.
purchasing.
which I mean, I know rates are ridiculous now, but.
Yeah, we don't, typically don't purchase full out. We spread it out over the year because then it would be about a $1.4 million expense. So leasing them over the 7 years, we get it to about $200,000 for the budget.
And not to be disrespectful in any way, but just because we've always done something doesn't mean that's the
No,
way we're
I completely understand.
Okay. So I'll ask, since it's presented, is there a motion to approve the bid?
As opposed, Mr. Chair, to what?
Well,
Looking at purchasing
Purchasing.
outright?
yes, ma'am. And I know, and the only reason I give that question is because Mr. Holbrook did ask that question of, if we have the money, why would we not purchase it? And Mr. Hagler did respond that, it used to, we would have to spread it out but then we would get on track of purchasing them. So there would be some off balance of cash. But to me personally, I don't think we've been given the, final answer of why we're not purchasing versus agreeing to finance.
So are you saying you'd like to receive additional information before making this decision?
I personally would, but since it's on here, I wanted to see if there was a motion, but
I asked that question of Mr. Hagler, and he said that he will work up an analysis and plan for the upcoming budget.
it's the will of the board.
I'd rather wait. I mean, if it's a 1.1% interest rate, I mean, we need to look into that.
Yeah, I say wait, I mean, unless it's, we're in dire need of it.
Do we know, Will, what happens if we don't approve this tonight?
If we don't approve tonight, the bids will expire. I have to go back through each one and look at their expiration dates, but the bids would probably expire and we'd have to reissue bids.
Mr. Chairman? And so what does that mean exactly? If they expire and you'd have to redo the bids, how will that impact us tomorrow?
Tomorrow, it would just be that we would have to go back and do that. It would just extend the time period out before we would purchase them. The original bid document had purchase in mid-November, so we would just have to move that out.
Okay, do we have any buses that are in such deplorable shape that we couldn't extend the life of those buses?
I don't-
Is it going to put our division in a worse situation with the bus situation as it is
I don't
already?
believe so right offhand. I don't have that information in front of me, unfortunately. But we do have some spare buses that we are able to use, but doing this allows us to keep a good fleet of buses. So I don't believe there will be any negative impact immediately, but I can't speak to that without any data or anything in front of me.
If we were, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Mealy.
Oh,
Go ahead.
do we, so there's no negative impact immediately, when your best guess, and I know it's a guess, when could it begin to negatively impact us? Are we talking 2 weeks, a couple months, not till the spring?
I would have to defer to Mr. Hagler about that. It's a certain process in terms of getting the buses ordered because it takes time for them to be delivered. And I believe that the intention was for them to be delivered or for the contract to be signed in November. So I can't.
I can help jump in real quick. I've talked to Mr. Hagler in depthly about this, and we do, working with Billy in the bus garage, we do have a cycle that we do need to continue. I think the reason, because we were going with the bids the way they are now, was because the budget was not built for that purchase and outright this year. I know Mr. Hagler was going to look into that for the upcoming budget, but it's built to continue the lease for this year. So I think that was why the recommendation was made.
How long is the lease?
7 years.
So for the next budget cycle, I think Mr. Hagler, like Mr. Daniels said, was going to look into that.
And do we know if there's a penalty, should we approve this for the 7-year lease? Is there a penalty if we pay cash in 6 months?
I would have to go back through the documentation on each bid. I don't recall seeing that, but I can't speak to it 100%. I do know there may be some penalty, pay ahead penalty.
Yeah,
You say approve it?
I'd say so.
Okay, well then
This time.
I have to have a motion then.
So, I mean, my thought is, I don't want to screw up the bus situation at all.
Yeah, I agree.
We can afford, yeah, okay. So I will make a motion that we accept the Bank of America bid for $1,659,159.07 at a rate of 4.32580%.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Harrison, second. All right, any other discussion?
I would like if you could take a look at that and just make sure and just get back to us and let us know if we can. There's no prepayment penalty or anything like that. We're not in any danger of rates, I don't think, going up anymore. I think they're holding for now. But I think it would be good to take a look at that for sure.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going to our hour of 6 p.m., recognition of students and staff. Ms. Borak?
All right. Vice Chair and Dr. Bergen, will you please come forward to greet our students and staff? All right. Our first group of students and staff being recognized tonight are a part of Jefferson Forest High School yearbook staff. Work on a student publication is one of the most challenging academic experiences a high school provides. Students not only learn to write for an authentic audience from original research, but they receive training in editing, layout and design, photography, technology skills, and business management. This project is completely student-produced under the training and supervision of an advisor. Jefferson Forest High School's 2022 to 2023 yearbook was submitted for entry into the Virginia High School League's Publication Evaluation Service. and it was announced recently that it had won the trophy class. This is the second year win in a row for the then editor-in-chief, Emma Cooper, who couldn't be here tonight because she had an exam at Virginia Tech. But let's congratulate the ones who are here for their accomplishments. First, we have Nora Parks. We have Ben Younghouse. And their advisor, Carrie Dodge.
Almost all my staff is in college.
Tall one, I know.
All right, the second group of students we are celebrating tonight is the Forest Running Club, made up of all Forest Middle School students. This team ran their hardest in all competitions to prepare for the states. The boys' club team beat all the other club and middle school teams in Virginia. The boys' team was led by 8th place finish by Broderick Nelson, who also earned all-state honors. Please join me in congratulating the Forest Running Boys Club for their first place finish.
Nice trophy.
Thank you, congratulations.
Let's see that. Let's see that.
Congratulations.
Oh, that's nice. Right, big trophy.
All right, next is public comment. Public comment portion of tonight's agenda is limited to 40 minutes. Speakers are asked to state their name and voting district. The school board is here to listen to your comments, but will not engage or respond to speakers during this 40-minute period. Please remember that this is a public meeting and that we expect all speakers to refrain from any foul, profane, abusive, or hateful language during the comments or any time while in attendance during this meeting. We also ask that speakers keep their remarks objective and about the school in nature. Please keep all comments limited to matters related to the public schools, and any comments that are harassing or amount to a personal attack against any identifiable individual, whether board member or staff or student, or having the potential to cause unnecessary delay or disruption to this meeting, are prohibited. This is a public meeting for public matters. If a speaker is not present when their name is called, we will proceed with the next name on the list. An individual who has not signed up to speak may not substitute for that time slot. Individuals will have 4 minutes to address the board. An alarm will sound when an individual has 30 seconds remaining, and a second alarm will sound when the allotted 4 minutes have expired. When this second alarm sounds, please discontinue speaking and allow the next person in line to come to the podium. Should you be unable to finish your comments, please send or give them to Ms. Johnson, and she will give them to board members. Please do not adjust the microphone at the podium, as it has been positioned for optimum audio quality. Dave Dietrich.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to revisit the issue of banning books. Recently, we heard yet more claptrap that books are being banned in Bedford County school system. Although few specifics were offered, it is obvious that Moms for Liberty and other concerned organizations were blamed. But where does truth lie? Let's consider some key facts. No one is burning books. That was done in Nazi Germany and in France under Louis XIV. It is not being done here in Bedford County, Virginia. So that ridiculous claim can be dismissed immediately. No one is banning books like was done in the former Soviet Union, unless one considers that the left is very busy these days banning the books and ideas of the Western tradition. How? The left promotes DEI as the left defines those concepts, effectively pushing traditional Western thought on the sideline of oblivion. Yet our students have a right to knowledge, discovery, and ultimately to truth, wherever truth leads. We also have an obligation to serve our young, to facilitate their learning and development, both intellectually and morally. We are also stewards of the Western tradition. We have a right and indeed an obligation to defend and share that tradition. Yet whenever the Western tradition is defended and leftist views are challenged and even rejected, it seems as though we are always met with more protests, largely in the form of virtue signaling. So I ask, on what logical basis should our school curricula transition from Western thought to something decreed by a collectivist minority faction that ostensibly protests banned books, but all along essentially bans books itself? Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Knight.
Good evening. Again, my name is Jonathan Knight. This week, I was elected to the Bedford County School Board to serve as the representative for District 1. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm also here to say thank you to the current board members, those that are that will continue in the next term and those that are stepping away. I appreciate your service to your community, and especially to the students of Bedford County. As a parent and a newly elected board member, I'm grateful that honorable people such as yourself were willing to step out and step up for what you think is right and what is true, and to do that in a time where that can be more difficult than ever. So I thank you all for what you've done over the last few years. To the people of the community that got out and voted this week, and to those that supported me personally, I thank you. I do not take this responsibility that you granted to me lightly. I promise to be an ear and a voice for the students, parents, teachers, and administration of Bedford County, as we all work together for a common goal, which is to give the students of Bedford County the best opportunities possible. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all that was signed up. Do we have anyone that wants to speak?
Good evening. My name is Isaiah Knight, and I wanted to talk about a post on Twitter from Libs of TikTok that was discussing our school system. I just simply wanted to read that. Scoop. 7th grader at Bedford County Public Schools were given a coloring assignment based on their gender, including gender neutral. A parent confronted the principal and recorded the conversation, which we reviewed. The principal can be heard responding, quote, "Some students are still identifying their gender, and we're trying to be inclusive." The teacher's response was that she likes to, quote, "get to know my students in different ways than other people always do." Why are 7th graders getting coloring assignments? Why are teachers suggesting to 13-year-olds that they can be gender neutral? I think those are excellent questions, along with the question as to why those individuals are still employed. We saw the election just a couple days ago, and voters are asking the same question. Thank you.
All right, we have other time slots. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay.
Chairperson Hill, members of the board, Dr. Bergen, and BCPS administration. I'm Stuart Gibbs. I'm in District 5. I'm the head coach of Jefferson Forest Cross Country, and as you just saw, I'm also the head coach of the Forest Running Club. I've taught in Bedford County for 17 years of my teaching career. I currently teach 11th grade AP US History here at JF, and I've coached the cross country team here for 3 years. First of all, I just want to thank you, the board, for honoring our athletes today. One of the things that they were most excited about after they won the state championship was being recognized at school. So not only to be recognized at school by Dr. Norman, but also to be recognized by the school board was a huge deal for them. So why am I speaking? I would like to ask the board to fund middle school cross country for the 24-25 school year. In the superintendent's budget for 2022 and 2023, cross-country funding was included, but it ended up being pulled out of the final budget that was passed by the board. So I'm asking that for next year that you would fund middle school cross-country. What is cross-country? Simply put, it's an endurance running sport. Our high schoolers run 5Ks and our middle school run 4K. Cross-country is one of the few sports that does not have any cuts and is open to those of different ability levels. It's also a very financially accessible sport for families. It does not require kids to have played on any kind of an expensive club team in order to make a spot on the team. All that athlete needs to run cross country is to show up with running shoes and athletic clothes. Jefferson Forest Cross Country has a very long history of success going back to Hall of Fame coach, Coach Loy. Many of you, if you've been around a long time, you are familiar with Coach Loy. JF Cross Country has won 5 state championships, which I know is the most for an athletic sport here at Jefferson Forest, but as far as I can tell, it's also the most for any athletic sport in Bedford County. The boys and the girls teams are perennial state contenders. Our teams have gone to states almost every year for the past 30 years. In fact, this Saturday, our boys team and 2 of our female athletes will be participating in the state championship in Leesburg, Virginia. Also, not only has Jefferson Forest had success in cross country, but Liberty High School's girls cross country team are favorites to win state championship this Saturday. And also at Stanton River, Jack Weddle, their top male runner, he will also be participating in the state championship on this Saturday. As of right now, in the Seminole District, Bedford County is the only county that does not have middle school running sports, which puts our athletes at a great disadvantage compared to those other schools. Not only are our athletes not eligible to run in Seminole District meets at the middle school level, for which there are a lot of, or which are free for our kids to participate in, also they lose out on those years of training in middle school. I did a poll of all of our varsity runners, so we have 8 runners on a varsity team, and of our varsity runners, 15 out of the 16 started running in middle school. So that just shows you the importance of those formative middle school years. We have been running the Forest Running Club for the past 6 years under the direction of the JF Cross Country coaching staff, and we have also had parent volunteers as well to step in and help with this. And the program has had a lot of success, culminating with this year's state championship. And we've done all of this with just parents helping out, paying a small fee, and by doing fundraisers with the high school team. So I thank you again for this time just to speak to you about this. I know some of our athletes want to talk as well about their experience. And I encourage you for next year's budget to add in middle school cross country. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I have another open slot if anyone is interested in speaking.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Jordan. I'm a senior at Jefferson Forest High School, and I'm in voting District 4. I was lucky enough to run under Jefferson Forest Middle School when they were a part of the high school team. And to be quite frankly, this program has changed my life in many ways. As a 7th grader going into the sport, I was hanging out with the not greatest kids, and when I came into the sport, there were leaders on the high school team who showed me discipline and responsibility and how to follow through in things and always get work done, and how I follow through in life. And I don't think without that I would be where I am in life today, and I'm very grateful for the program. When I saw the program was cut from the budget, it hurt me because even though the Forest Running Club is with our team, they cannot practice with us every single day, and they can't come to meets with us. So they are unable to be with the high schoolers, and we are unable to teach them the things that I was taught as a middle schooler that I've carried through with me today. And they have still done great today, as you can tell. They won state titles and everything. However, I sadly have not been able to build that bond that I was hoping to build. However, like I said, they've still done great things, and I know that money rules the world and money makes the world go around, and it wasn't part of the budget. I ask that you please put that in the budget as a small insertion, as it doesn't take much money. And I know it doesn't generate much money because, it's cross-country. It's not football or anything, but it changed my life, and I'm sure it changed everybo's life over there in that corner and those young prospects. I want them to grow up and they can inspire the young. So thank you.
Thank you.
How are we on time? On the
Ms. Johnson, we have 40 minutes allotted. Do we have time for any other speakers?
Yes.
Okay. Have another open slot.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Sink. I'm the athletic director here at Jefferson Forest High School. I want to commend Coach Gibbs and their entire program, both from the middle school all the way through the high school, and how much work they put into it. I will tell you something very brief that a lot of people don't know. This summer, we started a JF Leadership and Unity Council here on campus, and we have anywhere from 26 to 28 athletes, non-athletes, activity folks, theater folks, band folks come out on Thursdays during the summer to work out here and basically fix things that we can fix here on campus ourselves. Anything from just good old-fashioned elbow grease, hard work, painting, grabbing and growling, and just doing things that need to be done. And I will tell you that at least 3 of those folks, one was a state champion, one was a state runner-up, and Luke, Alex, and Zoe all showed up to do various things on Thursdays during the summer. I know the hottest day of the summer, Zoe and Luke were out there painting the JF logo on the side of the hill, and Alex was amongst the crew that was crawling around underneath the bleachers and clipping and picking up trash, and just an amazing group of young people. And I look forward to seeing them in the future. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Anybody? Does Zoe need some encouragement? Come on, you can do it. I think somebody had a big signing day in front of cameras yesterday anyway, right?
Hello, I'm Caroline. I'm Zoe. We're 2 of the varsity girls that are seniors this year graduating, and we also would like to put our voice out for getting funding for the middle school. We both started in 7th grade, and I would say, at least for me, that like a lot of my running and what I've learned now and do now, I can attribute that back to middle school. So, Zoe?
Yeah, I'd say with my story, I was a big soccer player when I started. I was into all the travel stuff and the back and forth of all over the place. So I think for me, I probably wouldn't even be here if we didn't have the middle school program, because that's like what fully pulled me over to run and kind of what showed me what was possible to start with. So I think it really contributes to the build-up and the training as far as that goes. And honestly, like, I think a lot of the varsity athletes, as Gibbs was saying, is a part of the middle school program originally. So we've got a lot of 5 years, 8 years. So I think it's really, really important for us to have the middle school program. And I think also, like, just looking at all the other big programs that contend with us or beat us in states, I think if you list Blacksburg, Western Armagh, who else? Charlottesville. I think they all have big middle school programs. I know Blacksburg has like 80 people on their squad. So I think overall, like, the start of a program starts from the bottom. So just like if you have a big base working up, I think that's how you really build a program. And I think the teams that have the bigger numbers really come out on top. So I think it's really important for us to build that up.
And it's not even just about, I think middle school for me wasn't even just about learning how to run and the fundamentals of that. It's learning like the leadership skills that you need once you get to high school. So please, like, when you think about this, don't just think of it as just running or just like going out to do a fast 4K. It's so much more about building like relationship with people. And if you've seen our middle school, like our middle school boys, like, shout out to them. They're awesome and they can do really great things. But like, they're going to be coming up, and then who's going to be left after them? So just think about that more, the future of like the high school teams. If you want us to keep doing good and going to states, like, we need the foundation for that. So thank you.
Thank you. We've got time for 3 more. Anybody else want to speak? All right.
I'm going to speak from a parent's perspective. I'm not a runner like they are.
Just don't fall.
You're good, you're good.
Thank y'all, board. I'm Jen Duncan. I live in District 4. I'm a mom of a varsity cross-country runner. She is the one runner that did not do middle school. And so I really just want to, I echo everything everyone has said, but I do want to add, in addition to what Caroline said about leadership, this program, it stands on pillars of tenacity, passion, these pillars. But I think the big thing I've found with running in general is it takes some of the anxiety away from these kids. So we talk about the sensory room we talked about earlier. We talk about these these kids that have, suicidal tendencies in high school. The running program that I've seen has, for my family, has taken away that anxiety. And so I just wanted to mention that as well. I think building, we talk about nutrition in schools. We talk about giving these kids other things to focus on to stay out of trouble. Running, I don't know if any of you have been runners in your life. Clearly I'm not, because I'm out of breath running down here. No, I used to be. But it really, I think having been around these kids and seen them, it takes some of those stressors away. And to be able to have that program, have a school-funded program, have a paid coach to do that with a whole community surrounding an already thriving program is so, so important. So it's not just about a state-winning team. It's not about just beating Blacksburg. It's about developing a community of youth that's healthy, that gets this life skill, whether it's running, walking, doing a 5K, being a good leader. Again, in addition to what they're already getting in this great education in this county. So thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I am Alyssa Keith, and I thought I would give another parent perspective as well. I believe I'm in District 4. I live near Jen. As a parent of 4 students who attend 3 different Bedford County schools, 3 of whom have run for Forest Run Club in the past, one of them was able to run for the varsity team this year. I just wanted to add my support to Coach Gibbs' points on the reasons why we would request that you fund the Forest Run Club. So we began the Forest Run Club. My daughter began running the Forest Run Club during COVID when she thought she wanted to play one of the local team sports, and she tried it for 2 weeks, and then that team was shut down because of COVID. And so she had the opportunity to try running. As a runner myself, I was very excited. I thought that was a great idea. But what it ended up giving to her was much more than just running, but it gave her, she was in 7th grade at the time, it gave her the leadership, the mentorship that Alex mentioned, that Zoe and Caroline mentioned as well. She was able to gain some confidence and get some of those skills that you need as you are growing through adolescence from the leadership that she got from the high schoolers who were just unbelievably kind to her as a 7th grader. My son was one of the ones who came up earlier today. He was able to join a group of people who accepted him. They're all weird in their own special way, all together. But I also was able to host the 6th and 7th graders at my house when we realized they weren't able to run with the high school team. And so when we realized they weren't able to practice with the high school team, I invited them to come to my house so that they could continue running. And what I saw was parents who are willing to pick their kids up from school and drive them to my house, and then I would mark a course in my neighborhood. I live in Farmington, so I got them on the sidewalks. And these kids just ran and ran and ran. I would say, okay, you need to run 3 miles. They'd say, can we run 5 miles? But they would joke and they would laugh and they would play games. And I wish you could have seen this middle school state championship. So there's like hundreds of middle school kids, and our kids are there, and like these boys are running so fast to beat the other kids, and they cross the finish line and they drop to their knees and like throw up, and it's really great. I highly recommend it. But what I see is building of a community for these kids, for kids who are always welcome on this team. So like Coach Gibbs said, there's no cuts. Everybody is welcome. You are welcome to run, you get on the start line, and you can be part of a team while also reaching your individual goals. So I just wanted to contribute my voice as a parent and also as the part-time middle school coach, requesting that you fund the middle school team for this upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more. Anybody else? All right.
Hello, I'm Luke Gaylor, senior at JF.
I'm Andrew Johnson, junior at JF. I'm District 4.
So, as my name is mentioned before, but this is my 6th year with JF Cross Country. And all 6 years, we've kind of built on this program. We built with our this team has become a family at this point in my life. As a senior, I've all these people that we've carried each other through our life, through our senior year, and now looking back, you kind of realize how important that early experience with discipline and dedication to something that I've applied to different aspects of my life. And so funding this middle school program is really, really critical for the future of their high school careers and their college careers, and so they'll apply it to the future of their life. And these things that you don't forget about your high school experience are developed in this program. And so I couldn't be more thankful for the friends that I have, this now family that we have together, and we always support each other and are dedicated to this. So it's very critical at this point in their life to have this. So that's all I got.
My name is Andrew. My 7th grade year, I got to run for the middle school program when it was funded. It was a great experience. Like Alex said, having the mentors around you. We had the older senior guys, Jed Dudley, and many of them, they were able to shape me into who I am now. And then my 8th grade year, we weren't able to have the middle school program because of COVID. So I actually got to experience the Forest Running Club. And just, even though you're still with the team, you're not part of it, you're not able to have that mentorship or like, I guess, the team surrounding you, even though they're part of the team. Some days we're not able to practice get together, and you're losing out on that shaping early in their career. And yeah, I guess that's it. Please fund the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, that completes tonight's public comment time. We will go back to Dr. Norman for school presentations for Forest Middle School.
Good evening, board members. I'm Donnie Norman, principal of Forest Middle School. I'm excited to share with you tonight just a few of the great things that are happening at Forest Middle. At FMS, we are focused on preparing future-ready Cavaliers, and you've evidenced that tonight on the many seniors that started in 8th grade on this track program. As you can see in both our vision and mission of the school, we are striving to engage our school community to support the individual growth and success of all students. This aligns directly with this board's vision of building citizens and promoting success. Both have one common focus: our students. Every decision I make as a principal of Forest Middle School is based on what is in the best interest of students. This evening, I will share an overview of our celebrations, the continuous school improvement goals, a little bit of our historical data, and the school-wide initiatives that support academic improvement. But before I do that, I would like to thank the board and the executive staff for allowing me to be a part of this great educational community. I was hired by the first principal, Emily Helms, in 1994 at Forest Middle School. As I have transitioned from teacher to administrator, I have been fortunate to spend 30 years in this county making a difference in the lives of our students. As we reflect on the 22-23 school year, I am very proud of the work that our staff has put into supporting the growth of our students. These are just a few pictures that provide a small snapshot of many exciting opportunities offered at FMS. In these photos, you see our students supporting the Forest community, their participation in the middle school sports program, the thrill of their first field trip of the year, our national spelling bee contender, and our guest visitor from WSET News 13 for our earth science students. Lastly, the repurposing of building materials from 1993 to help our school beautification efforts. We took the weight-bearing rock from the original building, now called the Flat Top Building, and filled our parking lot islands. Sorry, pressed the wrong button. There we go. As you can tell by the list of student successes, we have many. Our 8th grade students participated in the Plant the Moon Challenge. The creation of Club Day last year continues to have a positive impact on the culture and climate of Forest Middle School, and our students continue to thrive in extracurricular activities like athletics, band, and chorus. Through our newly added CTE class, Technology of Robotic Design, a drone competition team was developed. Last summer, FMS sponsored a robotics camp, and 128 students from area schools in Central Virginia came to FMS and participated in learning more about the future of technology. And our success didn't conclude at the end of last year. We have already had students, quote, graduate from our 6th grade exploratory mock medical school, awarding one of our adaptive PE students the Golden Shoe Award for his participation in phys ed, as well as students and teachers both participating and learning more about safety in the classroom. I am proud to announce that Forest Middle School is fully accredited. We will continue to focus on the success of all students with a specific focus on our students with disabilities in the areas of English and math, as well as the school culture and climate, focusing on the well-being of the whole child. As I now transition to speak to you about our comprehensive school improvement plan, I would like to share with you several data points and then each of the 3 improvement goals with our data and our strategies for academic support. The faculty and staff, starting on week 1, took a deep dive into our data and identified the strengths and weaknesses of all students, but specifically identified those needing additional interventions. My leadership team then began to work on areas of support for both teachers and students, and that is what I would like to share with you now. Reading Goal 1. The first goal is for all students to improve their reading proficiency with a concentrated effort to improve the performance of our students with disabilities. As the historical data and current academic data shows, the drop in our overall pass rate has been minimal since pre-pandemic. From an 87 to 84, we have moved from a level 3 red in 21-22 up to a level 2 yellow in 22-23. As every school does, we will still have improvements to make with a focus on the learning gaps among our students and making up for the time their instruction was impacted by the pandemic. We have 3 strategies that we implemented last year and will continue to utilize this year since we showed growth. They are targeted professional development for our teachers and effective co-teaching methods. The second would be to continue to use our system for diving into data regularly, using both the state, division, and teacher common assessments to guide our instruction. And lastly, to instill the use of high leverage practices among all of our teachers. This is essential in reaching every student every day. The second goal established by the leadership team is for all students to improve their math proficiency, again with a targeted approach to supporting and improving the performance of our students with disabilities. As the historical and current academic data shows, we had a more significant drop in our overall pass rate, especially with our students with disabilities. The overall drop went from an 89 to an 84%, but what we are genuinely focusing on right now is the significant decrease with our students with disabilities, going from a 77 to a 50, which immediately put us in a level 2 monitoring with the state. Sorry. During the 22-23 school year, the heavy emphasis on reading and writing interventions showed growth and success. We are now working towards taking that same approach in the math content area. The implementation of targeting both content areas with intervention strategies, high leverage practices, and cross-curricular instruction is a goal that all staff members at Forest Middle School are working on and supporting. Once again, we have several strategies that we will utilize this school year. Teachers will utilize the data tracking system that is offered through the assessment platform Mastery Connect. Additionally, they will disaggregate data that is received through the comprehensive instructional program. We will also complete a student observation instructional round, as we did last year with our students with disabilities in the area of reading, and use the same model this year in the area of math. This will assist us in determining the high leverage practices that need to be emphasized. Our final goal of the CSIP is to strengthen the school climate and culture that enhances the experiences of learning for all students. We are focused on curbing discipline, increasing positive referrals, and focusing on building relationships between teachers and students and the school and our families. Our data shows that FMS had 159 behavior incidents last year that impeded academic progress, and we want to reduce that number by at least 10%. We also had chronic absenteeism rate of 8.7%, which is higher than our usual 4 or 5%, but still within the state guidelines. Our goal is to keep students engaged in the learning process to be ready for their educational experience, which is next for them, and that is high school. The 3 strategies that we focused on to help improve our climate and our culture and safety of FNS are this: a vigorous parental involvement program, support from our school counseling and intervention divine specialist teams to help with the well-being of our students, and finally encouraging FOMO for all of our students, and that refers to the fear of missing out that will keep them engaged at FMS. And that's one of the reasons this year we moved our clubs days till Monday. We wanted Monday to be an important day of the week for our students who want to come back to school after Friday. So we focused this year on using clubs on Mondays, and it's been great so far. As I close this presentation, I want to share with you a statement that is on the wall of one of our classrooms. And I quote, "In case no one told you today, hello, you're doing great. You belong here. I believe in you. You're loved." Sadly, my faculty and staff started our year off with a loss. One of our beloved special education teachers, Miss Sierra Charpentier, unexpectedly passed away in the summer at her home in New York. This statement is still posted on the classroom wall that she worked in for 2 years. We hold this statement up as a reminder that every student who walks through the doors of Forest Middle School has various needs, and every student who walks through the doors of FMS we are to believe in and love. Thank you again for letting me share our story. And questions, I'm sorry.
Any questions for Dr. Norman? All right, Dr. Miller?
Hi, Dr. Norman.
Hi.
Did you call on me or Miss?
I did.
You did, okay, sorry. Thank you for that report. I really appreciate the time you took, and thank you to your staff for your full accreditation and all the work they do, and your students, because they're the ones doing the work. With your goals, you stated in your goals that all students will improve their reading proficiency as measured by an overall increase in the school's pass rate. So tell me how you're going to measure that. Like, is an improvement 1 point, or how have you determined what an improvement would be?
Yes, ma'am. So we're always shooting for the goal of 70%, except for in reading, 75% pass rate based on the state standards. And we use the information that we glean from benchmarks to track that initially to see where we're going. I have that information that I can share with you later, but not with me. It's very, very good so far in math and English, and science, and in social studies. So we track that along the way, and then as a leadership team, dive into the data every time we meet to make sure that we're focused and that as teachers are doing what they say they're doing in the classrooms.
Okay, you also talked about decreasing your failure rate. So how many students are we talking about when you decrease your failure rate, which is a much easier goal to reach?
Yes, ma'am. Well, in our students with disabilities last year, there's several formulas that the state accepts, and last year we were able to get a reduction in failure rate, which is a 10%. It's called R10. You know that, you're the principal. And we're going to do the same thing this year because our numbers are 68 that we have students with disabilities that we focus on, and it's pretty even through the 3 grades. So I think that's our best way to move us from yellow to red. I'm talking yellow to green, sorry, the wrong way, yellow to green, sorry. But that's what we're going to do. And like I said in my statement, we are doing some student observations in classrooms where there's collaboration going on, and we're going to look at the math this year. Last year we looked at reading to see how students are interacting, and it's something that was real successful last year, and we took that information and made changes.
And you speak about the student observations. You said the leadership team is going to complete these student engagement observations.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and then you go on to say they will determine which high leverage practices and strategies should be implemented. So how is the classroom teacher involved in that process?
That's a great question. I choose a math teacher and a SPED teacher, and like last year, we sent them into a whole day of observations. They knew what SPED kids were in their classroom, but the special education kids didn't know they were in there for them. And so they had a set of questions and observation look-fors. The high leverage practices that Dr. Trosper had, this is something we implemented this year, the 22. So far, we've worked on 6 this semester. So they're going to look at that as well and see about, the collaboration, teacher engagement, and how is explicit teaching, things of that nature when they're in the classroom for that short time.
So you said you took a deep dive into the data and you were working on, did I just understand you correctly, 6 of the higher level, higher leverage practices? So, and I'm sorry, did you tell me what they were? And
I did not. And to say that I memorized which one, it's on a nice PowerPoint that I can share with you. But we as my admin team, we decided this is what we need. We wanted to start with. The executive staff gave us some flexibility on how we implemented that. It was great this summer when we had our admin conference, having that giving us flexibility, and that's what's working for Forest Middle School right now. So we're going to continue on that track.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Mr. DeMeo. What is your or one of your biggest concerns at this moment?
My biggest concern, this year, I have 68 students with disabilities. I also have 55 African-American students that are lower in math than they should be, and so we kept an eye on them last year, so we're going to focus on them as well.
Okay, thank you so much, and again, congratulations to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Norman?
Yes.
Ms. Hairston?
Just wanted to, congratulations, Dr. Norman, on your longevity in Bedford County, as well as your school's
been great.
accreditation, so
Thank
kudos
you.
to you. I really appreciated the in-depth picture that you painted for us in terms of your goals that you've set for your school. But I would like for you to elaborate a little bit about your parent involvement. You indicate here that you have call logs. So can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Is it the expectation from you to your staff, your teachers, that they are to call parents on
Yes.
a regular basis? And for what reasons would they
Well,
call?
we try to encourage, and as long as I've been doing this is a difficult task. If teachers would make a positive call, it's so much
Okay.
easier to make the negative call.
Mhm.
And we haven't quite made that transition, but those who do that, it gives great rewards. So we always contact parent with a discipline or anything like that, or
Right.
Ds and Fs. We have a great intervention design specialist room this year, very similar to Mr. DeMaio. It's actually 2 rooms, one's therapeutic and one's academic. And like Mr. Daniels said, I think that's a great idea to kind of notify parents if they're in there. But that's what we're doing to support our students and teachers. But we always track what's going on with data. And can you repeat what you said? I want to go back to what you said.
So I was just, and you're headed in the right direction here
Right.
in terms of answering my question. I just wanted to fully understand how your teachers,
yes, ma'am.
okay, are utilizing the call logs.
Correct. Well, call logs go several ways for Ds and Fs, or if there's a classroom management problem, or it's a positive call. So teachers, as part of their exit interview, when we talk about their call logs, they bring that with them. It's usually through emails a lot because that's what people respond to now. But the phone, I always find much more effective in my practice. But yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Dr. Norman? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to informational items, 3.01 Program of Studies. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, Mr. Hill, thank you. Tonight, board members, we're going to be sharing with you the proposed changes to the program of studies for next school year, the 24-25 school year. A copy of the proposed program of studies is attached to this item within board docs next to this agenda item. As is the case each year, the instruction team meets with our principals and our counselors to receive feedback on any needed changes. The proposed changes for next year include a few course deletions, modifications, as well as additions, and some editorial changes, mainly with wording and formatting in the document itself. The approval of the program of studies will be on the board's agenda for next month so that we can begin our course registrations per our calendar in January. I'd now like to turn this presentation over to Dr. Trosper, who's going to be providing some more detail for you on the proposed changes, in particular, some of those new courses which we are proposing to implement next school year. Dr. Trosper.
Thank you. I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of the new courses we're proposing, some revisions, and just some minor changes. Before I start that, I just wanted to mention that over the last 2 years, we've proposed 24 new courses in our program of studies. 16 of those were CTE courses, so we've done a lot of work over the last few years. Don't have as many this evening, but as always, this program of studies creating is a collaborative process, as Dr. Bergen said, with principals, counselors, teachers, content specialists, and division level staff. I would like to say a special thanks to Mrs. Susan Haslett. She is the library paraprofessional at Liberty High School and has a tremendous gift for proofreading, editing. She enjoys that. I asked if she would proofread it this year, and she did a phenomenal job. She is also one of the nicest people you will ever meet. So if you ever go to Liberty High School, please introduce yourself to her. It'll make your day a little bit better. But I do want to say a special thanks to Ms. Haslett. Our goal this year, as we created the program of studies, was really to help have a better understanding of the program of studies to all who use it, and that includes our families, and also to really focus on successful implementation of the science and social studies sequences that we began last year and we're going to have fully implemented this year. So first of all, in social studies, you'll see that world geography will be offered to 8th grade students, and world history 1 will be offered to 9th grade students. And so that will complete the transition to 8th grade world geography, 9th grade world history 1. Now what I do want to mention something, if in the draft that you have right now, it shows that world geography is actually not for high school credit. We've had some discussions and we've decided to offer that as a high school credit, even though they'll take it in 8th grade. The reason for that is if a student is not coming to high school with just a few high school credits, it makes it really difficult for them to go to Susie Gibson and also achieve an advanced diploma. So we felt like if we did not allow them to have high school credit, that was going to limit some opportunities. So when you vote in December, just that minor change, that will not be just a middle school course, it will be for high school credit. In science, in 8th grade, they will take physical science and they will be tested on the 8th grade science SOL. Earth science will now move to the high school and students will take that as an elective after either biology or environmental science. And so as far as the new courses we're introducing, we have 6 new courses and 4 CTE. In grades 7 and 8, we're going to offer intermediate course for students. In grades 11, we're going to offer college U.S. history, so students can take U.S. history for a dual enrollment credit. And for our CTE courses, the first one's going to be entertainment, design, and technology. And this is an interesting course because as we're trying to get more and more students to have CTE completers, this course might appeal to some students that are in fine arts who maybe didn't get a completer in the past. And so we think as a CTE class, it might attract some of our fine arts students. We're going to offer marketing management to our students in grades 11 and 12, which again is just another completer option for our students. We're going to offer sports and entertainment management to students in grades 11 and 12. And this is another marketing class, but as the name suggests, it's more focused on students who are interested in sports. And then finally, ecology and environmental management for students in grades 9 through 12. And this is going to be part of an agriculture sequence, and this actually is going to complete with other similar courses and really strengthens an already robust agricultural program. And so those are the new courses. There's some revisions. Previously, when a student signed up for AP Government their senior year, they would take AP U.S. Government and Politics and Comparative Government in the same year. What we've done after talking to our social studies teachers, our history, our administrators, we've decided to separate those out into 2 different courses. So now when a student signs up for AP Government, they will only take AP U.S. Government, and that course will take the entire school year. And if they want to take Comparative Gov, that would be another course, another elective they would take. And so that's just the revisions. And then the course removals, we are going to remove applied mathematics, data science, and American Sign Language. This is just due to low enrollment consistently. We have a lot of math options. These are just options students haven't really chosen. So we're just going to remove those. And then just some minor updates. We did do an updated description of diploma seals to match DOE updates on their webpage. We have updated a description of SOLs that will be implemented. Next year, we're going to have new SOLs in English, history, and math. So a lot of changes coming from the DOE there. We updated our description of the locally awarded verified credit opportunities that students can use to get credit in high school history. We've updated expectations for AP teacher training and recommended prerequisites for students who take AP classes. We've added a description of our expectations for students who take dual enrollment courses off campus that they do independently apart from Bedford County. And then finally, we've added a description of the Virginia Literacy Act, which is going to go into effect next year. So that's just a quick overview of the program of studies. So I'll be happy to take questions.
Questions for Dr. Trosper? Any questions? So maybe I missed it, Dr. Trosper, but is there like a summary page of what you just read?
I did not
versus
post
this
one,
100-page?
but I can certainly provide that if that would help.
To me, it would be helpful, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You guys okay with asking
Yes.
for that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like a quick summary, and just trying to understand what we're adding and what we're taking away. And I don't want to make assumptions, but I heard you say you've talked to teachers and administrators. Was there any concerns over removing anything that we're removing?
No, no, and that's one of the things our content supervisors do is they meet with department chairs and they get their input. And again, a lot of our courses offered are driven by student enrollment, and just some of the ones removed, kids are not signing up for. So this didn't really take away opportunities kids wanted.
Okay. And anything that we're adding will be available at all 3 campuses?
Not necessarily. That
Okay.
just
I need
depends on
clarification on
certifications.
that
Yeah, so that's, I would like to say we could, but, you know, certification, student enrollment, it really up to each school, but it is available for kids to sign up, and then we'll see where the numbers fall.
Okay.
If we can offer that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. All right, moving to 3.02, 2024-2025 school calendar. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, sir. So tonight, we're going to be sharing for information a proposed calendar for next school year, the 24-25 school year. So of course, will come back next month for your approval. You're going to be hearing in the presentation from Dr. Woodford this evening that we've changed the process, board members, for the development of the calendar to increase input on what the community is looking for in the calendar, rather than develop a calendar and then ask people to vote on options. So we've received quite a bit of upfront input, which you're going to hear about from Dr. Woodford in this process. We have used that input to develop a calendar that we believe meets most, if not all, of what the community is requesting. And we are trying to get this in front of you tonight and approval for next month so that staff and families can make their plans for next school year around the school calendar. So Dr. Woodford, we'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, members of the board. Tonight I want to share the proposed calendar for the 24-25 school year. As Dr. Bergen mentioned, the development of this calendar was done much differently than calendars in the past years. Therefore, I'd like to just share the process we used and explain some of the features in our proposed calendar for tonight. First of all, in the development of any school calendar, there are a lot of required elements that must be worked into the draft that we would consider non-negotiables. The first is that the state requires us to have 180 instructional days for students. Those 180 days due for us have to start after August 1st due to some payroll considerations and budget considerations. In addition, we have a contract with Liberty University to graduate on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. They hold that spot for us for years to come. And we actually talked to LU about moving that date, and there are no other dates available. So unless we change venues, we're really locked into Memorial Weekend, which in a lot of ways is nice for our seniors and families because they have that Monday off with traveling. Also, Liberty University, really, the size, the parking, the convenience of using the Vine Center has really been important to our staff and our students and our parents. So we feel like that's something we need to honor and stick to. There are also things that are just important to teachers and staff, such as the need for professional development. We always end our first semester prior to winter break. This is due to giving us the ability to finalize our midterm exams in high school so that our students don't have to come back from winter break and take finals for the semester. We also know that our teachers need work days throughout the year. So part of our work on this calendar was determining teacher and staff requests through a survey that I'm going to share more about in a moment. And just as you all know, not every desire can be worked into a school calendar. So what our team did was try to honor as much as we could within the parameters of requirements and request. As a reminder, just how we did our past calendars, as Dr. Bergen said, our instructional team would develop 3 or 4 calendar options, working around all the things mentioned in the prior slide. And then we would ask staff to vote on their favorite calendar. There were some concerns related to that process because it really boiled down to what we heard with staff feeling like they really didn't have a voice. We would send the drafts out, we would ask for the vote, we would have low responses in a lot of years. And there really aren't a lot of options available. So a lot of times staff were just picking the calendar with the shortest number of days in the year, which would then cause issues with not being able to have work days and professional development days. So our new process began really in the fall of last school year, and it has three main components that I'd like to share with you. First were listening events that occurred last fall and that have occurred this fall, the development of a calendar committee and the work that they did, and then a final consideration by the committee trying to honor what we had learned in our work as a group together. For the last 2 years, the school administration office staff have gone to every school in the fall to hold listening events. Staff can meet with school administration office staff, that's our directors, our supervisors, our executive staff, and provide feedback on anything that they feel like needs some input at the division level. We welcome suggestions, ideas, concerns. During these events, we've received a lot of feedback on calendar needs. The largest feedback was that we need more professional development days. And at least one work day at the end of each 9 weeks so that teachers could work on grades and preparing for the next quarter. And a lot of teachers made that suggestion that they'd like to bring a calendar committee back to work on options, and that way they felt like they could be represented through the committee's work. Finally, many said that they just don't vote. They just look at the options and they figure somebody else is voting, so they're just not that interested in doing it through a voting option. So with that suggestion of looking at a committee, I sent out a request to all schools for volunteers to serve on a calendar committee. We had 19 staff members volunteer, and 12 were selected, and the reason for that was I was trying to get equal numbers in each zone, equal representatives from groups, and equal numbers of high school, middle school, and elementary school teachers. At the first meeting, the committee shared all the things that staff felt were important. We asked them to reach out to staff and get suggestions. We had a long discussion about how to really gather feedback from everyone that was meaningful so everyone felt like they had a voice. We knew that everyone wants time off. They needed work days and they need time for professional development. So our task was to try to see how to make that happen. Our team decided to focus on looking into 3 different tasks that they felt were important. There was interest in researching a year-round model of schools to see if there was a major advantage to moving to year-round school for staff, students, and parents. The second team wanted to really look at the current calendar to see if they could tweak it to make it better so that they could use that as a model for future calendars. And then the third team worked on developing a survey to staff to gain important input on calendar development prior to us trying to create a draft. Each group spent several weeks working on their task and then returned to share information with the group. I will say the group looking into the year-round options found a variety of data for and against year-round options. And so at this time, we just really felt that that discussion should be tabled since we are still trying to recover staff morale since the pandemic, and any major change of this magnitude would really need a lot of feedback from parents, a lot of feedback from staff, and a lot of feedback from community. And so it really would take several years to implement, and we were not sure at this point if there would be a huge advantage to year-round school. So that group had a lot of research, but decided we really needed to hold on that. And then the team that was working on tweaking the calendar for a model realized how difficult it was to get everything they wanted into a school calendar. And they agreed with the third team that a survey really needed to be created. So I am going to share some feedback that we received through our survey and that we did try to incorporate for the most part into our draft that we are presenting tonight. So one of our questions to teachers and it was really to staff. We had 743 responses from all different staff. We sent it to everyone. And we just asked them, if we were to offer more holidays off, like President's Day or Veterans Day, would you be willing to work additional days before or at the end of the school year? 67% said no. So that gave us a good indication we weren't going to try to add holidays. Then we asked for staff to prioritize how they would want different parts of the calendar to look. So the first one was, how would you want the first week of school to look for students, the first week you're with students? Teachers said they really wanted to start with students on a Wednesday, or their second priority would be to start on a Thursday, to have a shorter week so that then they have time to recover over the weekend, change anything that needs to be changed really quickly to get started the next full week. We then asked them to prioritize what open house options should look at. We had a long discussion about, should open house be in work week? Should it be after the teachers have gotten to know kids a little bit better? But after surveying, their priority was really just to leave it as it was in that back to school week for teachers and students coming in with their parents from 12 to 7. The second priority, if we couldn't make that happen, was just to make that open house shorter in time. And then the third priority was to consider doing it after 2 weeks in school, again, to give teachers time to get to know their students. Next, we asked them to prioritize the conference day, because there was a lot of discussion about teachers felt like the conference day was too late in the first semester. So in our discussion, the priority was to keep it in second semester, just like we do now. And the second priority, especially for our elementary teachers, was to move it back to closer to the end of quarter one so that they had time to give their concerns to parents a little bit sooner. The next one we asked about was to prioritize the length of breaks. What was it most important? Was it most important to have 2 weeks off for Christmas? Most important to have 3 days for Thanksgiving? So you can see there, the priority was 2 weeks at Christmas, with the caveat that they would really like a first day back just to be a work day for teachers without students so they can get prepared. And the second priority, 2 weeks at Christmas, then the full week at spring break, and then finally the 3 days at Thanksgiving. We also discussed 2-hour early releases, which we had removed from the calendar a few years ago because of concerns with transportation. But after talking with Mr. Hagler and Dr. Cornett, we thought, well, let's see if we added some back in, what would that look like? So teachers felt like if they were going to get 2-hour early releases, they would really prioritize them at the end of a grading period or consideration for having them once a month. Also, we asked them how they felt about when to offer professional development. We know we need 3 or 4 days for professional development throughout the year, and so we asked them to really rank their preference for that. Their top priority was go ahead and doing that 1 full day back when they came back for work week, and then 2 other days during the school year. And I think that really was because they realized by not having that day this year, which was something we got from our listening events, there were a lot of things that were introduced that they didn't have time to have professional development on until September. So they really thought going back to having a PD day during their first work week was important, or having a full day each quarter, or once a month during an early dismissal time. So with these priorities, we created 2 drafts for the calendar committee to consider. And really, I'd have to say the only true difference were start and end days for the year. And so after discussion, the committee felt that the final proposed calendar was the strongest, and that is what you see on board docs. And I just want to highlight the major things we were able to do in this calendar. So each year's calendar can be less or more appealing, really based on certain holidays and the days they fall on. For instance, for this calendar and the 2025 school year, Memorial Day falls early on May the 26th, and next year it falls on May the 25th. So that means that our seniors need to graduate in order to be able to have their graduation on Memorial Weekend, But students still need to return in grades kindergarten through 11 for just 2 or 3 days to finish out that 180-day requirement. But when we get to year 26, 27, Memorial Day is actually on May the 31st, which is really late in the calendar year. So that's going to help our calendar year just fall perfectly. So with that being said, the final calendar has these features. New teachers will start working on Friday and Monday. So their 2 work days are Friday the 2nd and Monday the 5th. Then all teachers and staff will return on Tuesday, August the 6th. We did add a professional development day back into the work week schedule. School does start on a Tuesday. No matter how I try to arrange it, that Wednesday, Thursday start day for school, for students just would not work to make everything else work. Again, that would at least give them a little bit of a delayed start. So kids come on Tuesday, they have just 4 days before they can make some adjustments. We did put additional professional development days in September and November for a total of 3 professional development days. We removed the professional development day that we typically have in the spring, like in February or March, because a lot of times we end up canceling it because of snow if we have snow, or we need to get those PD days in earlier if we're starting new initiatives. So we just felt like it was better to front load those in the first semester. We have added teacher work days to the end of the first and the third quarter, and the third quarter work day is a virtual day based on feedback from the board and the resolution. 2 teacher work days should be virtual, so one of those will be at the third quarter. We also added an additional work day on November the 5th, which is also virtual, and that's an election day, and of course this coming year it's going to be a presidential election. So allowing teachers to work at home would be beneficial to keep the parking lots low with cars. Also, based on the way the winter holiday was falling, we opted for a 2-hour early dismissal on the last day prior to winter holiday to give teachers some time to work on grades prior to leaving for winter break. I will say we did consider a work day in January when teachers came back. But again, the way the holiday falls, to give 2 full weeks at Christmas, that would mean that the teachers to have that work day would have to come back in on a Friday to do that work day, which I did not think was too appealing at the end of winter break. Or students would have to start on Tuesday, January the 7th, which is really difficult for parents, having that late of kids coming back, because it's just not falling on the New Year holiday correctly. So we opted for a 2-hour early dismissal. It probably isn't our, it won't be the most favored, but at least we are giving teachers some time. We did move the parent-teacher conference day back in the calendar, closer to the end of the first quarter, so teachers could meet with parents quicker. And I'm happy to say staff and students will still get 3 days at Christmas, 2 full weeks at Christmas, and a whole week for spring break. Again, I just want to make sure that you do see in this calendar that in order for seniors to graduate prior to May the 24th, which is the Saturday of Memorial Weekend, they'll finish on Friday the 23rd, but students in kindergarten through 11th grades will return on Tuesday and Wednesday after the Memorial holiday to complete the 180 days of instruction, with teachers finalizing their workday on that Thursday and that Friday for the end of the year. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Any questions, Dr. Mealy?
I just have a comment. Thank you for those additional PD days. I know that was really hard on you all. And thank you for hoping that we're ever going to get snow in Virginia again.
I want to sort of echo some of the same sentiments from Dr. Mealy, but, I just think the process, listening to you, Dr. Woodford, explain how you really involved the staff, the teachers in this decision-making, to me was just, you're to be commended and your team for that. Maybe, you're restricted with the holidays and all. There's not a lot you can do with those days, But kudos to you all.
Any other questions?
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate the hard work. Teachers and staff were involved in the survey.
Yes, it was, so the survey was sent to every employee in Bedford County.
Okay.
So anyone who works for us had input on the calendar. And we also let principals know to make sure that their cafeteria staff knew it was out there, that their bus drivers knew it was out there. We asked our transportation supervisor to make sure that they don't often check their email, and it went out as a Google survey, so it was available. And we felt like we really had pretty good turn back with 753 employees.
753 out of how many?
1,500.
Okay, so.
Which is definitely more than we've had in the voting for options in the past.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that worked out. Were parents asked?
No. And that is a very good question. I knew you were going to ask me. Obviously, we have a lot of parents who are employees, but we didn't have a parent sitting on the committee, and that was just an oversight on my part. Again, because I think we all are kind of thinking about parents with holidays and asking parents to have additional days where they're having to find babysitters and things like that. So that is something that I will correct when we get back together for this school year, for sure.
Yeah, and, I know this past year, we had days after Memorial Day, and we cut them. And that's fine, but I'd like to not do that in the future. But that being said, if we have kids up to 11th grade coming after Memorial Day, chronic absenteeism is a problem, and I would bet on those 2 days we're going to see a major problem. So, okay, I know the end of the year not a lot happens, but that's 2 instructional days that we're missing out on. My preference would be to try to find them somewhere, even if it's half days for something, half day, and I don't know how professional development works or teacher work days. If there's ways to sneak that in, yeah, it's great my senior's off, but I got to make sure that I'm back, or I have to delay a vacation because of that. So and plus those 2 instructional days are important. If they're in the middle of the year, they're going to get, it's like the meat and potatoes. So, I mean, quite honestly, I would like to see that if I'm going to approve a calendar. And I know it's tough, but that's just where I'm at. I've heard from a lot of parents today. I guess they know that they do pay attention to board docs, so they knew that was coming out. So, yeah, I heard from a lot, so I just wanted to provide that feedback.
Okay.
Just an impromptu question then for you board members. The 180 days that we reference, there's a caveat. The state requires 990 hours or 180 days. And I did, anticipating some of this discussion, I checked in with my regional colleagues. There are other school divisions in the region that don't plan a 180-day calendar because we far exceed the 990 required hours, which is why we were able to remove some of those days last year by board action, because I could still certify we had exceeded 990 hours. I'm not comfortable planning a calendar with fewer than 180 days of instruction. Our students need all the instruction they can get. And I'm balancing that in my own mind in front of you when you say, really don't want to have to wipe days off after Memorial Day. We can wipe them off in planning of the calendar. The risk we run is now that one of our colleagues has asked for snow to return to Virginia is it'll happen that year because we have built-in snow days. So if we don't meet 990 hours because there's significant snowfall, then we have to make very unfavorable choices of lengthening the school year, lengthening the school day, considering Saturday school, which I would never propose in a million years. So we try to give you a calendar that gives us cushion.
990 hours.
But we can, but we can meet the 990 hours without coming back after Memorial Day is the long and the short of it, if that's the will of the board.
Okay. You had a question?
Yeah, I would much rather see us be completely done before Memorial Day. And that's what I've been getting concerned from parents as well, because travel. They've already planned vacations and stuff for Memorial Day, so their kids aren't going to be in school anyway. So that was one of the concerns that, I spoke with Chris about, that like chronic absenteeism, nobody's going to show up those last 2 days of school. So we're going to have a huge issue. So I would much rather vote on a calendar where everything is completely done by Memorial Day.
So if we were to go that way, and I'm fine, I would make 2 suggestions. I would say we shorten the Thanksgiving holiday to Thursday, Friday. That gives us 1 day, which may not be, parent-friendly either. And one of the teacher workdays, at the end of the first quarter, we would use it on that virtual day on Election Day. We added a teacher workday to give teachers more time, but we could pull that additional workday out to get out by that Friday. So those are some options that.
We're exceeding the hours right now.
We are exceeding the hours right now. My only concern is academically, we're still struggling.
Oh, I know.
So
I
to
know.
take that 180 days, I would rather take it in the calendar to try to find it. But yes, we do exceed the 990 hours.
And I would say, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right? That's what you're saying, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You could do a half day there too. I mean, there's several options. And when is early dismissal on a half day? I know it varies on the school.
It's 2 hours
It's
prior
2 hours,
to the
a
end of the
2 hour.
school day. It
Okay.
depends on elementary. You just back it up to
Okay.
for.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? So Dr. Woodford, just thinking outside of the box.
Sure.
Are there any opportunities for virtual learning days where we can include those 2 last days for our students to either do community service or some type of virtual learning? I mean, we've got lots of learning opportunity outside of our buildings in our county. And so I don't know if there's any state standards that allow us to do that.
After COVID, they really tightened up on virtual learning days. And I don't know, Dr. Bergen, but I think they are not allowing excessive virtual learning days. I would have to look into that. Our students don't participate well on virtual learning days. So it's kind of the same, is it chronic absenteeism or is it everyone's missing a day and.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm trying to be creative with those last 2 days, because we've heard from parents and teachers, kids aren't coming those last 2 days, even if it's on the calendar.
And they don't, I'm just going to throw out, the last week of school is kind of the same.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, whatever the last days of school are, we start to get absenteeism
So
increasing.
what is it that the state will allow us to do outside of tradition that will allow attendance to be counted if it's virtual or some type of outside, activity that parents can say, yep, this is what my kid did on these 2 days? And maybe I'm living in another world, but I just want to know what the options are. If we can shorten those 2 days to not be in school, but possibly virtual days of some type of activity, or if it's online, if they go and have to watch a certain thing, whatever it is, for us to be able to count it as a full day, we need to know what those guidelines are from the state. I mean, I think it's worth looking at, just as far as feedback. So, okay. Any other questions?
I just have one comment. And I heard from parents too, I do understand that, but as an educator, virtual days aren't great. Lots of kids are going to say, the kids who don't show up, at school are going to be the same kids who say, oh, we didn't have an internet access that day. And I think what the board needs to continue to consider is that our students are behind still from COVID. So every day in school matters. It's not a day where you don't do something important. You do have activities that last week of school, like field days, which are important for the social, emotional, and physical health of our children. So I understand where parents are coming from. They don't like that. I wouldn't either, but by the same token, I think it's not about the parents and it's not about the teachers. It's about our students.
I will, if you all are okay, I could tweak what I've got, get your answer about the virtual learning, send that to the board in a Wednesday memo next week see if I can figure out how to get us out before that, on that Friday before Memorial Day. And then I'd probably want to get feedback from you to see if all of you are okay with it, because then it would be for vote next month. Is everyone okay with that, if I'm just communicating with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
One more question.
Sure.
A teacher has told me that there's no such thing as a stupid question, so I'm going to ask it.
There is no such
Okay.
thing, yes.
So 990 hours is the requirement. Is that requirement the same for seniors?
So, for high school credit courses, it's 40 seat hours, 990 hours for everyone. Yes, here's what we say though. We certify that we have a calendar of 180 school days, but we know those seniors have their credits and they have their 990 hours. So many school divisions do this where their seniors graduate and then other students continue to come for a few days. For the same reason we're proposing it, just because of the way the days are falling, so, yes.
Wondering.
It's not a dumb question at all, so, yeah. Most of our seniors are finishing up exams, if they have to even take exams, they finish their SOL test, they've got their graduation requirement, so it's easier for them, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they don't come anyway, as Dr. Calvert said.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Woodford. Moving on to 3.03, policy updates. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, sir. The Intergovernmental Affairs Committee met on the 24th of October to review proposed revisions to 8 policies. And as always, the complete red line versions can be accessed through the link within the agenda on board docs. I'll just give a very brief summary of what the proposed changes are for these 8 policies. They include BCE, school board committees. This policy was reviewed and given proposed edits for policy BDD, which I'll be speaking about next, regarding remote participation. There were no changes being recommended to the policy, but we reviewed BCE with the committee because BDD, electronic participation in meetings from remote locations, has proposed edits that would allow for the use of individual remote participation or all virtual public meetings for any standing committee or subcommittee or other entities designated by the board. While it's not in our policy currently, our practice has been for some of our board members who serve at the standing committee level to phone in and participate, which would be considered remote participation for personal reasons that occur during the day of the meeting. Policy GC, professional staff. Proposed updates include the addition of language to allow for extension on 3-year provisional licenses for a teacher and the ability to recommend a waiver of certain licensure requirements for an individual seeking employment as a career and technical teacher. Proposed changes to GDG support staff probationary period. There were no changes other than updates to the cross-references within the policy. IGBG, off-site instructional and virtual courses. The only update is a change in the title of nurse practitioner to advanced practice registered nurse. And this very technical change is due to changes in state code and making sure our policies match state code. Policy IKF, the Virginia Assessment Program and Graduation Requirements. Proposed updates to the policy would allow for flexibility on graduation requirements, Mr. Daniels, for students from families serving in the armed forces who are often required to relocate between states. Policy JHCB, student immunizations. There are no changes proposed to this policy other than that very technical change in job title that I shared with you on IGBG. And lastly, policy LEB, advanced alternative courses for credit. The proposed policy language has been added to permit students to exceed a full high school course load when participating in courses offered by an institution of higher education that lead to a degree or certificate or credential at such institution. Again, complete redline versions can be accessed online. That is a brief summary of the 8 policies. I'm certainly open to answering any questions or the 2 members of the board who serve on the committee.
Any questions? Questions? All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to additional action items, 7.01, school board meeting calendar.
This was presented last month. We fielded questions at that time as regarding why some of the locations are indicated the way they are. So tonight, we're just asking for your approval of the dates so that we can advertise our public meeting dates for the school board. And some of those September, October, November will be filled in with a location once we have a better understanding of the use of the high schools and their auditoriums.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the 2024-25 school board's meeting calendar as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Dr. Mealy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, 7.04, approval of state literary loan application resolution. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, so the literary loan, which was established by the state constitution, allows for construction loans to schools at a very low interest rate. And given the current market, the rate for this application at 3% would provide substantial savings for the county over a 20-year repayment schedule. The deadline for submitting a loan application is next Thursday, the 16th of November. The resolution, which is attached to this agenda item in board docs, has a total request of $28,687,000 for 3 separate projects that include the improvements to the canopies and auditorium at Stanton River, likewise improvements to the canopies and auditorium at Liberty High School, and the addition of a gymnasium at Bedford Primary. Both the school board and the Board of Supervisors are required to pass resolutions in order for the school division to apply for a literary loan. The Board of Supervisors were asked to consider a similar resolution as on tonight's agenda. Their meeting was Monday, November 6th. I attended that meeting with Mrs. Kirby and fielded questions from members of the Board of Supervisors, and then they unanimously passed a resolution to allow the school division to apply for this literary loan. I just want to emphasize that this resolution before you tonight is only seeking permission for the division to apply for the loan. There is a cap of $200 million on this fund, so depending on the number of school divisions who apply, there's certainly no guarantee that our application will even be approved. However, an approved application would provide a funding plan for the unsolicited PPEA, which we have been having discussions about for those same improvements at Liberty High, Stanton River, and Bedford Primary. If that information didn't provide you enough on the purpose of the resolution, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that I might be able to.
Questions? Do I have a motion to approve the approval of state literary loan application resolution as presented?
So moved.
Okay, I've got Mr. Daniels with the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Mealy. Any discussion?
Mrs.
Oh, was it Ms. Harrison?
Ms. Harrison.
I'm sorry, Ms. Harrison. A second by Ms. Harrison. Any discussion? All right. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. 7.05, approval of policy updates presented at the October 12th, 2023 board meeting. Dr. Bergen?
I have no new information to share. We reviewed this information last month. It's just up for action.
All right. Do I have a motion to, for the approval of policy updates presented at the October 12th, 2023 board meeting?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Daniels, motion by Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All right. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. On to 8, Superintendent's report. Dr. Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Before we proceed from slide 1 and go on to the accomplishments of our students and staff, I do have several key updates I'd like to share with you board members. First of all, we had a lot of discussion here tonight about the needs of special education students and their accomplishments on benchmark assessments and on SOL assessments. And the challenges here in Bedford County are identical to the challenges in every other school division in the Commonwealth and in the country in terms of how to best educate and assess our special education students. So as was shared with you several weeks ago, I was personally asked by Dr. Coons, our State Superintendent of Instruction, if I would serve on a statewide work group for special education. The work group that Dr. Coons has assembled includes several superintendents along with other individuals across the state in central support positions, teachers, community service partners, and parents. We had our first meeting as a work group on the 30th of October, at which time we reviewed a number of important topics and agreed that we needed to have further discussion over the course of this school year on these topics, including, first, recruitment, retention, and professional development for teachers. Second, high-quality instruction for all students. Third, the importance of inclusive classroom environments. Fourth, post-secondary opportunities for our students with disabilities. Fifth, parental engagement in the process. And six, improvements for monitoring and support from the Virginia Department of Education. Yesterday, I attended our own Special Education Advisory Committee meeting so that I could solicit feedback from our own members here in Bedford County on these topics and ask for the input on any additional topics to which they provided me some feedback. And I'll carry those recommendations back to the state work group and continue to update you as this work group unfolds. Next, several weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the annual fall conference for the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, otherwise known as VAS. And at the conference, superintendents received updates directly from Secretary Gadira, as well as from Dr. Coons, on a number of topics, including the recommendations of a different work group that was established through House Bill 585, passed by the 2022 Virginia General Assembly of the Commonwealth, to help position Virginia to be a national leader with state assessments. So in summary, beginning with the 24-25 school year, we can expect revised and more rigorous SOLs that include a crosswalk with the National Assessment of Educational Progress, otherwise known as NAEP, or the Nation's Report Card. And in addition, there will likely be a new assessment platform that provides for more problem-based questions that require students to explain their thinking rather than simply choose from 4 choices. And we might anticipate higher cut scores on SOL assessments, as well as a continued focus on both proficiency and growth, and ensuring that all of our educators and our parents and our students have access to actionable data that can be used to improve student outcomes. So tonight, we've talked with you about new assessment materials or new instructional materials that we've implemented, particularly in English language arts last year for our secondary schools and this year for our elementary schools. And we've talked with you tonight about more rigorous benchmark assessments. I think the combination of the new materials, which are more rigorous, and the quarterly assessments, which are more rigorous, are going to make us well poised as a school division for more rigorous SOLs and SOL assessments in the coming years. My next update concerns revisions to our operating budget for this school year. We still need to have some discussion. So next Friday on the 17th of November, Mr. Hagler and I are going to be meeting with this board's Budget and Finance Committee to review proposed changes to this year's operating budget. You might recall from our last update, we are receiving, and we have now the calc tool and know how much money we are receiving in addition. It is approximately $5 million. The lion's share of that, or $3.3 million, is earmarked for the all-in plan from Governor Youngkin. Our all-in plan has been submitted, is approved, and is on the VDOE website. Regarding the remaining $1.7 million of the increase in state funding outside of the all-in plan, we're required to use part of that, or about $500,000, towards a 2% increase for all SOQ funded positions. That leaves about $1.2 million allocated that we'll discuss with the Budget and Finance Committee. And it'll certainly be our recommendation that we use that money to pay for the state share on the 2% raise for SOQ funded positions, and then provide a 2% increase for all of our employees, SOQ or otherwise. After we reviewed those recommendations with Budget and Finance next week, we'll be prepared to have a more in-depth conversation with all of you at a special called work session later this month on Monday, November 20. Next, on the slate of policies that were included tonight for information, one, policy IGBG regarding off-site instruction in virtual courses has a statement in it that students may apply to participate in virtual programs either full-time or part-time through the school board's remote learning option. And as we were reviewing the policy with Mr. Hill and Mr. Daniels, We shared that we're no longer using Virtual Virginia for our full-time virtual students, and the question was asked, was this a change that we had not shared with the board previously? And it is, and so let me share with you, as we did with the committee members, our high schools do continue to have access to Virtual Virginia courses on a select basis as needed for students who have already started in and they're a singleton and they need to have a course to complete, and it's offered through Virtual Virginia. However, our full-time virtual students for this year, we switched to Ed Options, which is a product of Edmentum. The switch from Virtual Virginia to Ed Options for full-time virtual students was for a number of key reasons. First and foremost, cost efficiency. It's just less than Virtual Virginia courses. However, the level of content is much more rigorous. It also allows for the inclusion of live instruction as well as asynchronous instruction tailored to individual students. And it allows for year-round open enrollment, which is particularly important for students who are assigned by the hearing officer in mid-year to the Alternative Education Center. So it does not disrupt their schedule, and we can put them into Ed Options and continue to instruct them in that way, as well as for students who need homebound instruction. So with those updates aside, let's continue now on, as we traditionally do, and celebrate the accomplishments of our students and staff. We're going to get a running head start on tonight's celebrations by congratulating Jack Weddle from Stanton River High School. In addition to winning the Blue Ridge District cross-country meet, Jack was named Blue Ridge District Runner of the Year. Congratulations to you, Jack, on this outstanding accomplishment. And as pictured on the right-hand side of this slide, Stanton River wasn't the only school with fast runners this season. The Liberty High School boys cross-country team clinched the 2A district title this season and went on to compete at regionals. Congratulations to these young men for such outstanding achievement this season, as well as all of the Forest runners that were with us here tonight earlier. From running the trails to running a show, our students never cease to amaze me with their talents. The Liberty High School FFA Club had a big win at the Hub Federation Forestry Contest. The team competed against other FFA teams in the area to identify trees, forestry tools and equipment, formulate a timber stand, and complete a compass course. They then went on to compete at the South Ridge area event at Ferrystone State Park, competing against other chapters, and won their federation contest and took home second place. Congratulations to our Liberty FFA students and their sponsors. And as pictured on the right-hand side of this slide, Jefferson Forest Cavalier Theater competed in the Virginia Theater Association Conference this month and brought home many accomplishments, including JF's one-act play, The Green Bird, made an appearance in the VTA finals, placing 4th in the state across all classes, both public and private. Best actor recognition and best costumes in the state. And the tech team locked in their first ever first place finish in the statewide Tech Olympics. And 5 of the auditioning seniors combined for over 70 callbacks from colleges. Congratulations to our JF Thespians and their sponsors. The celebrations continue to the field with all 3 marching bands and their recent achievements. The Liberty Marching Minutemen took grand champion at the Cavalier Classic for the small band portion of the program. At this regional invitational, the Marching Minutemen brought home 3 first place awards and 4 second place awards. When I went into the office at Liberty High School last week, there were trophies all over the countertop. They're just so proud of their Minutemen. The Jefferson Forest Marching Cavaliers also had another fantastic season this year, performing their show Alchemy. They placed first in Class 4 and 5 at the Cavalcade of Bands held on the 7th of October. They also placed first in their class and second overall at the Tidewater Regional held in Virginia Beach on October 14th. And they were the grand champion, sweeping first place in all captions at the Drums Along the Blue Ridge competition on the 21st of October. Finally then, at the October 28th VMBC Championships, the Marching Cavaliers placed 3rd in their class in preliminaries and 7th out of 34 bands overall in the finals. And not to be outplayed, the Stanton River Marching Golden Eagles ended their competition season on a sweet note at the Blue Ridge Festival of Bands, where they earned first place in color guard, first place drum major, second place percussion, second place marching, and second place overall in Class 1A. We're just so proud of all three of our high schools and our marching band students. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments. Our students shine in athletics and academics because they have the best teachers and staff educating them. If you've been following our division Facebook page, you've seen the individuals on this slide as we feature them as their school's representative for this school year's Teacher of the Year. We've been highlighting several teachers each week and have just a few more to showcase before we announce the selection of the top 3 for Bedford County. In the meantime, each of these individuals are to be congratulated individually for being selected by their peers as the Teacher of the Year for their school. Our school staff are not the only ones that can nominate a colleague or a fantastic teacher or a fantastic anyone who works for us for recognition. We encourage everyone in our community to nominate any teacher or staff member for recognition as one of Bedford's best. It was my pleasure to surprise Taylor Caffro at Liberty High School in front of her students and Erin Brammer at Stewartsville Elementary School in her classroom. Through the generous donations of the Bedford Area Educational Foundation, both of these outstanding teachers were presented with a gift card and an exclusive Bedford's Best coffee mug. If you would like to nominate someone because of the difference they make in your student's life, please visit our website or our social media channels and submit a nomination. Last month, on the 19th of October, we celebrated our outstanding bus drivers and other transportation staff employees during Bus Driver Appreciation Day. It goes without saying we simply cannot operate our schools without our dedicated transportation team members. We offer you our sincere thanks for helping our students make it to school and back home safely again each day. As pictured on the right, a bus recruitment event was held last month, and we had a tremendous response from the community, with individuals showing up interested in joining our transportation team. Those applicants were able to drive a school bus in the parking lot at Liberty High School under the guidance of one of our bus driver trainers. And then they were invited to come inside for coffee and donuts and meet on site with HR staff and transportation leaders to get a jump start on the hiring process. A very big thank you to all of the staff members pictured here on this slide and others for their time in planning the event and for coming out on Saturday to support the event. We have been able to hire quite a few new transportation employees because of this event. In addition to recognizing our student successes and showing our appreciation for teachers and staff, I'd also like to raise awareness for some other special causes that occurred during the month of October, including students across the division participating in Bullying Prevention Month. Students showed their support to stand up against bullying through unity chains, by wearing orange on Unity Day, by participating in lessons on taking responsibility for your feelings, and on planned spirit days to stomp out bullying. Also, as pictured on the right, in the spirit of unification, staff members from the town, from the county, and from the schools came together on the 20th of October in Centertown Park so that together we could paint the town pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month and let survivors, as well as family members who have lost loved ones, know that they have our support. We also celebrated Diversity Awareness Month throughout the month of October. Students celebrated inclusivity and raised awareness throughout the division by participating in classroom lessons to learn more about the accomplishments of individuals with disabilities and by holding fundraisers for local charitable organizations such as Cravables and Alex's Lemonade Stand. Also in support of Disability Awareness Month and in partnership with Special Olympics, the 4th annual Little Feet Meet was held at Liberty High School on the 26th of October. We spent the morning celebrating and encouraging these little athletes in friendly competition, and I was honored to escort the athletes in the ceremonial lighting of the torch. This day is always so much fun for the athletes and the students and their families and the community, and plans are already underway for the Big Feet Meet, which will be held next spring, and we'll be sure to invite you, and please come out and join us and celebrate our special needs students. Last month, our high school students had another opportunity to participate in Bedford One, which, as the acronym says, offers new experiences for students to learn about local businesses and is a collaboration between the Bedford County Economic Development Office, the Economic Development Authority, Central Virginia Community College, and of course, Bedford County Public Schools. The students on this tour first toured Southern Air's Fab Shop, where they could learn more about the HVAC industry, including paid internships and apprenticeships. And the second stop on the tour was to Interspect Technologies, where they learned more about non-destructive testing and other advanced technology. Students are able to sign up for these industry tours through their career coaches in their high schools. And speaking of economic development, at the request of the board, I did check in with the Bedford County Economic Development Office and the town of Bedford, who are instrumental in attracting new businesses and residents to Bedford County. Recent economic development news includes the development at the new London Business and Technology Center, the expansion of Parkland Direct, a high-volume lithographic print and custom envelope manufacturer, proposed zoning changes in the town to stimulate both employment and residential opportunities that include modernizing downtown and the development of 2 new apartment buildings, including a 130-unit complex on Independence Boulevard and 60 units that will be within the renovated Bedford Middle School. This coming Saturday, November 11th, is Veterans Day. Of course, it'll be observed on Friday, the 10th of November, nationally. This federal holiday is observed each year to commemorate the cessation of hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, and was first observed on November 11th, 1938. In addition to preserving the historical significance of the date, Veterans Day helps us to focus our attention on all of America's veterans. Student drivers at all 3 of our high schools have received this week complimentary car flags and are being encouraged to proudly display those flags on their vehicles tomorrow in recognition of Veterans Day. We would like to again thank Ken and Linda Parker with the Bedford Boys Tribute Center for organizing this effort, as well as the Bedford American Legion Post 54, the National D-Day Memorial, and the Bedford Welcome Center for their partnership in collecting donations from the community. This is just one way that our students can honor our servicemen and women for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. On this slide are a few informational items that are important for the board and our parents and other community members in Bedford County. First, our student artwork will be featured at the Bauer Center at various times this school year, beginning with our youngest students on November 14th through 18th. We'll include a special reception on the evening of the 16th of November. Please check our social media sites for additional details about these planned student art exhibitions, and I certainly would encourage you to come out and see the good work of our young artists. Also pictured on the right, as we approach winter weather, we'd like to remind our students, parents, and staff about our inclement weather codes. We've simplified the list to just 4 codes to indicate when students and staff should or should not report to school as a result of inclement weather. A listing of these codes as they appear on this slide are featured in the 2nd edition of the Superintendent's newsletter, which is posted on our division website, and that same information is also available on our division Facebook page. And finally, here are the 3 things you need to know. As stated earlier, the Teachers of the Year for each school have been chosen, and the Teacher of the Year Selection Committee has met and reviewed all of the nominations to select the top 3 most deserving teachers. We will be announcing those finalists during school visits, so stay tuned. We'll be posting pictures and names of those 3 finalists on our division website and social media channels in the coming weeks. Next, seems like just yesterday the school year started, but Thanksgiving break is just around the corner. Remember, schools and offices will be closed from Wednesday, November 22 through Friday, November 24. Students and staff will return to school on the 27th of November, a Monday, and likely will be a few pounds heavier after eating all of those delicious pies pictured on this slide. And lastly, the Virginia Department of Education celebrates Take Your Legislator to School each fall. I've been working with the board's Intergovernmental Affairs Committee members, and we will be inviting state delegates and senators, both those newly elected as well as those returning, to join the IGA committee members and members of the Board of Supervisors to visit schools on the 1st of December, where they will be interacting with students and staff. And Mr. Hill, this concludes my superintendent comments.
All right, thank you. Matters from the board, committee reports. Ms. Hairston?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Laurel School Board will not meet until December the 7th, so we haven't had a meeting since I last reported. And the Facility Committee, we met on October the 19th. Not really a meeting, but we just kind of had like a field day where we went out to the high school and just kind of took a look at the parking lot there. And I will refer any questions that you all may have to Mr. Holbrook regarding that conversation that we had. Okay. And that's all regarding the Facility Committee and the Laurel School.
All right, Dr. Mealy?
We have an upcoming finance meeting, but other than that, there's nothing else to report from last month.
Mr. Holbrook?
Like Ms. Harrison said, we had a meeting on October 19th with a paving contractor out at Liberty High School. And he gave us some options, and no decisions have been made. I mean, this is a project that's going to have to be done during the summer anyhow, so it's not a rush. And he was the first one to come out and really give an estimate on the ceiling. So as far as I know, we're going to get some more estimates and then make a decision before summer and move forward with it. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Nels?
I was unable to make the CTE committee due to a meeting conflict, but I think Dr. Bergen attended.
I did.
Do you have any updates from that meeting?
They were included, most of the updates were included in my presentation here tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Daniels?
There was a SEAC meeting last night. I was unable to attend. Dr. Bergen just let us know about that. And then IGA, we meet later this month on the 28th.
Okay. And for me, the Go School does not meet again until December, so I don't have any updates on that. And then we were supposed to meet this week for the, oh my gosh, my mind is going blank. Susan Cash is the director. I am so sorry.
STEM Academy.
STEM Academy. I could not get in my brain. We were supposed to meet this week, but she has asked for us to push it out until December, and I don't have those results yet. But if the board does not agree, it will be on November 14th. So that's my committee reports. All right, comments and concerns from school board members. Mr. Daniels?
All right. First off, happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all those who have served. Goes without stating that we are forever in your debt, so thank you for that. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors for unanimously, allowing us to, with their resolution, to move forward with that low-interest loan. Everyone keep praying that make sure that we get that. That would be just fantastic. We heard a lot tonight about running and cross-country, and I think that, there was a lot of passion in the room. Everyone was super genuine, and it seems like it's changed a lot of lives here in Bedford County, not just for Jefferson Forest, but we've heard from Stanton, about Stanton River and also the Liberty Zone. So it seems like it's something that we should all be considering as we move into the budget for next year. It takes a lot of discipline, responsibility, hard work, dedication, and teamwork. I have tried to run, and I am not great at that, so I will stick to what I'm good at, but I know that all those students are really good at it. So it was also great to hear from so many in public comment, to hear a lot of positive comments. So I enjoyed that, and I'm sure we'll all look into that, and I'm sure other board members are going to have stuff to say about that, but that is it for me.
Okay. Mr. Nels?
I'm just going to echo Happy Veterans Day, and then I'm going to put in another plug. Dr. Bergen, I don't know, how many people did we get for bus drivers? Because I know we're still having some issues with buses not.
Yeah, we had, Josh, you were counting, we were so excited. How many was this? 18 were there that day, and they went in and filled out the application, and now they're in the pipeline with studying for their state-required tests and being trained by our bus drivers so we can have more substitutes on hand.
Awesome. That's all I got. I don't have to do the shameless plug today.
Mr. Mr. Holbrook? Dr. Mealy?
Yes. First, I want to wish a happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you get to spend the day with family and friends that you love, and you eat a lot. And I want to also say congratulations to Mr. Perro. He's going to be our new treasurer. I'm going to miss you. And this is my last time I get to talk about Veterans Day, but I would like to talk about it as I do every year. World War I, the Great War, officially ended with the Treaty of Versailles. And actually, when it ended, when the Treaty of Versailles was signed in June, I think it was 1919, the hostilities had ceased about 7 months earlier when an armistice was developed between the Allied nations and Germany, as Dr. Bergen said, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And for that reason, November 11th is generally regarded as the end of that war to end all wars, I believe they called it. Later, a year later, in November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the commemoration of Armistice Day, and he said in part, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with the gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given to America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of nations." In 1954, after World War II had required the greatest mobilization of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen in the nation's history, and after Americans had fought aggression in Korea, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the veteran service organizations, amended the Act of 1938, striking out the word armistice and inserting in its place the word veterans. With the approval of that law, it was Public Law 380, November 11th became a day to honor veterans of all wars. This Veterans Day, I'd like to just take a moment to offer thanks to the extraordinary men and women who have protected this nation throughout history by just listening to some words of our famous Americans. One is a former representative, Dan Lipinski, who said, "On this Veterans Day, let us remember the service of our veterans and let us renew our national promise to fulfill the sacred obligations to our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much so that we can live free." Or Ronald Reagan, "We remember those who were called upon to give all a person can give, and we remember those who were prepared to make that sacrifice if it were demanded of them in the line of duty. Most of all, we remember the devotion and gallantry with which all of them ennobled their nation as they became champions of a noble cause." "It's about how we treat our veterans," said Barack Obama, "every single day of the year. It's about making sure they have the care they need and the benefits they've earned when they come home." I think that I'd also like to just take a moment to talk about Vietnam, because I know all of you know that my husband fought in Vietnam, as did 6 million other people. And it's not, my words about Vietnam are not to diminish any other war or conflict. That's the thing that impacted my life, was his service in Vietnam. So it's no more or no less for any other family who has a member who participated in another conflict. But the Vietnam men and women, their memories of returning home are of people who hated them a lot or merely treated them with total indifference. They didn't return home to cheers or ceremonies or celebrations. And many Americans viewed the war as something that should be forgotten altogether. But the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial on our National Mall receives the most visitors of any memorial on that wall, with nearly 5 million visitors every year. If you've been there, near the wall, there's 3 service statues that guard that wall. And a plaque not far from there reads, "In memory of the men and women who served in the Vietnam War and later died as a result of their service, we honor and remember their sacrifice." I said this last year, I remember. So many men and women were killed in Vietnam. They just didn't die there. They're dying among us right now from things typically the result of Agent Orange or simply their service in a war zone. My husband was one of those helicopter pilots who served during America's helicopter war, doing things such as rapid troop transport, close air support, resupply, medical evacuations, and search and rescues. 12,000 helicopters were used in Vietnam, and almost half, over 5,000, were lost or destroyed. My husband flew a Huey, which was considered one of the most dangerous jobs in the military at that time. I'm incredibly proud and very humble of his service and all those who served alongside him in Vietnam and anyone who served our country. Yet to this day, when you talk to my husband, he will always say it was an honor and a privilege to serve his country. And when told that he's a hero, he always answers, "No, I was just doing my job." I still stand in awe of the veterans I know. To me, they are incredible American heroes. And I know, Mr. Holbrook, you're a veteran. Do we have any other veterans here this evening? Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart as a civilian. I don't understand what you did, and I've never been there, but it is a regret of my life that I did not serve our country. And if I had to do it all again, I would, because you are incredible people. And I think George Washington said it best. It's about the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. This country has not seen and probably will never know the true level of sacrifice from our veterans. And as a civilian, I owe a debt to all of you that is simply unpayable. So George Washington, I think, says it all. This Veterans Day is very important to all of our veterans. So please take the time to recognize these individuals, to help them if they need help, and to teach your children how critical they are to the freedom that we enjoy every day. And I know I used these words last year, but I still think they're very important. The words of Winston Churchill, "Never was so much owed by so many to so few." And that will be the last time I get to talk about Veterans Day, but I hope that everyone who's listening and everyone here just understands the sacrifice these people have made. And it doesn't mean you had to have been in combat. You sacrificed just by serving this country, and I sincerely thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Neely. Ms. Hairston?
Yes. I too would like to thank all of our veterans for their sacrifices and for defending our rights and the privilege that we all have as Americans. Thank you. And also to our teachers and our staff members. Thanksgiving holiday is coming up in, I guess, a week and a half maybe. So I wish each and every one of you just a blessed holiday break, enjoy your time with family and friends, and eat, and just have fun and relaxation. So that's all that I have.
Thank you. For my comments, I would just say, again, thank you to the Board of Supervisors for passing that unanimously on Monday night. And then also thank you to JF for hosting us tonight. And then I just wanted to touch base on the public comment. When I had a vision several years ago about bringing our board meetings to the high schools, that tonight was what it was about. To allow, one, our students to be recognized, but two, to give them an opportunity to speak, and our parents and our community in the area who is not normally willing or simply will not travel to Bedford to one area. So tonight was a prime example of what us having our meetings at the different high schools is all about. So I just wanted to say thank you. First of all, congratulations to the teams, but then second, thank you to the students and the parents who were willing to stand up and say something regarding the budget and what that program means to them. So I appreciate that. All right, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Vice Chair, I have to say the whole thing, right?
The whole thing.
Okay. Pursuant to Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A13, 1, to discuss the assignment, appointment, performance, disciplining, and release of contract for specific school board employees, including the evaluation of the superintendent as provided in his contract of employment, and 3, for the discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or for the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was second by Dr. Mealy. Any discussion? All right, all of those that approve us going into closed session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in closed session.
But she's.
All right, do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All of those in favor of coming out of closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You need to certify.
Whereas the Bedford County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And where Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bedford County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Do I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, have a motion for the approval of consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Have a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor for adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.